Chapter 881. Although Tan Xiao spoke bluntly to the three of them, he appreciated them very much. They were able to stake everything on one throw to fight for the opportunity in cultivation. Tan Xiao seemed to see the magnificent feat of hundreds of millions of living beings in the immortal world fighting against the heaven, the earth and the people. Half an hour later, Tan Xiao took a car and left Green Lake Agricola, but he told Mo Ao to stay nearby and closely monitor the situation here. After returning to the Chang City Hotel with Li Chang, Tan Xiao found that Shuiyu had returned. "Have you arranged everything?" Tan Xiao took off his coat and saw that Shuiyu had taken a bath and was sitting on the sofa in pajamas, reading a book. He immediately asked with a smile. Shuiyu put down the book and nodded. "Everything has been arranged. Besides, I got a call from that man surnamed Huang. He invited me to the coffee shop on the first floor of the hotel." "That guy is really impatient." Tan Xiao couldn't help laughing. "Did you agree?" Chuckling, Shuiyu said. "If I didn't agree, how could I accompany you to put on this show? But do you really plan to use that Li Chang? That guy is indeed a talent. It's not a bad thing if I can recruit him for my own use," said Tan Xiao. "However, he has something on his mind. He wanted to say something to me many times tonight, but he didn't say anything in the end." "He has a patient at home," said Shuiyu with a smile. "You divined again?" asked Tan Xiao curiously. "No. I found it through divination before." Shuiyu shook her head. "He seems to be short of money now, so he should be raising money for his family's medical treatment. Also, I found something interesting. In fact, every time he betrayed his previous company, he would make the previous company's boss suffer miserably. On the one hand, he resented those companies' bosses, but on the other hand, he had no choice." Tan Xiao thought for a moment and suddenly said, "Let He Xiong and Shueisha deal with that boss Huang. Come with me, we'll go to Li Chang's house to have a look." "All right." Shuiyu gently nodded. 10 o'clock in the evening. A bit drunk, Li Chang returned to his home in the Qingya neighborhood. Pushing open the bedroom door, he saw his wife, Luo Yu, leaning against the bedside lamp, staring blankly into space. He squeezed out a smile, reached out to untie his tie and said, "It's so late. Why aren't you resting yet?" Luo Yu came back to her senses and softly said, "If you don't come back, I won't be able to sleep." Li Chang was just about to sit on the bed when he suddenly realized the smell of alcohol on his body. He immediately said, "I accompanied a client to drink some wine tonight, so I have the smell of alcohol on me. I'm going to take a shower first. I'll be right back." Luo Yu nodded slightly and looked at her husband's back as he walked into the bathroom. She knew that she had been a burden to her husband all these years. Sometimes, she even wanted to commit suicide so that her husband could live more easily in the future. But every time she wanted to take action, she couldn't bear to leave. It wasn't that she was afraid of death, but she couldn't bear to leave her beloved husband alone in this world. Sigh, Luo Yu sighed faintly and looked up at the ceiling, trying her best not to let the tears in her eyes fall. Very soon, Li Chang finished washing up. When he got into the bed in his pajamas, he gently hugged Luo Yu and said, "I'm afraid I'll be very busy in the next 2 days. But as long as it's successful, not only will I be able to collect enough money for your surgery, but I can also earn money for your postoperative recuperation. If you feel bored, I'll call my younger sister and ask her to take a leave to accompany you." "Don't disturb Xinjie," said Luo Yu hurriedly. She just finished her freshman year this year and found a temporary job in Shanghai during the summer vacation. Let her exercise well. You've been treating my illness all these years, and Xinjie's living expenses are not enough. I really don't want to burden her anymore." "The reason why Xinjie wants to stay in Shanghai to work is mainly to earn more money," said Li Chang with a smile. "She doesn't have to pay the tuition fee for her sophomore year. But I just said that I can earn some money in the next few days, and I can solve most of the problems at hand within half a month. Therefore, she doesn't need to earn money outside. She just needs to come back to accompany you and take care of you. That's enough." "Did you get the business deal you mentioned?" asked Luo Yu curiously. "Not only that, but the things that happened to me in the past 2 days will be inconceivable in the eyes of many people." Li Chang nodded. "Forget it. I won't tell you the specifics. But you must believe that we'll be able to live a good life soon. I believe you. Luo Yu smiled faintly. Shortly after, the husband and wife chatted for a while. Just as they were about to rest, the doorbell outside suddenly rang. Li Chang, who was a bit sleepy, frowned and muttered, "Who's coming so late?" "Let's go and have a look," said Luo Yu softly. After a while, Li Chang opened the door and looked at Tan Xiao and Shui Yu outside. An incredulous look appeared on his face as he asked in surprise, "Brother Tang, sister-in-law, why are you here?" Tan Xiao strode into the door and lightly smiled. "Did I disturb your rest and family by coming here so late?" No. I'm just a bit curious. How did you know where my house is?" Li Chang quickly shook his head. "Is it difficult to find someone's address?" Tan Xiao asked with a smile. Recalling Tan Xiao's identity, Li Chang immediately let out a hollow laugh and said, "That's true. It's not difficult at all." "All right, I'll cut the crap with you," said Tan Xiao. "If my guess is correct, you should have a patient in your family, right? You also heard a lot of people calling me Divine Dr. Tang. This time, I came here to help you solve your worries." Li Chang was shaken inwardly and hurriedly said, "Brother Tang, I do have a patient in my family. It's my wife who has a heart disease and slight kidney failure. However, I signed the contract 2 days ago. After I get the commission, I'll be able to raise enough money for my wife's operation." "What?" Tan Xiao asked with a faint smile. "You don't believe me?" Li Chang let out a hollow laugh after his thoughts were seen through. "How could I? You're the famous young divine doctor. But can Chinese medicine cure a heart disease? Whether it can be cured or not, we'll know after trying it," said Tan Xiao with a smile. "Prepare yourself. If your wife hasn't slept yet, you can treat her later." Li Chang hesitated and said, "Brother Tang, the hospital has given me a professional treatment plan." Tan Xiao interrupted him and said, "I can leave immediately if you don't believe me. Of course, if you let me try it, it won't harm your wife even if I can't cure her." Upon hearing it, Li Chang immediately felt relieved and hurriedly said, "Brother Tang, sister-in-law, you two take a seat first. I'll call my wife out." Immediately, Li Chang quickly walked into the bedroom. "I heard it. Who exactly is this young divine doctor?" asked Luo Yu softly. "He's the young divine doctor of Star City Chinese Medical Hospital, Tan Xiao," said Li Chang in a low voice. "He's also a famous and powerful Chinese medicine practitioner in the country. Honey, he just said that even if he can't cure your heart disease, it won't harm you. How about we give it a try?" Luo Yu nodded and said, "I've heard of him. He's a very powerful young divine doctor. Since you think it's okay, then let's give it a try." Outside in the living room, Tan Xiao could clearly hear Li Chang and Luo Yu's conversation. After they came out, Tan Xiao observed Luo Yu's complexion and nodded. "Yin and yang deficiency, kidney function decline. I'll check your pulse." "All right." Luo Yu sat in front of Tan Xiao and stretched out her wrist. Quickly, Tan Xiao let out a faint smile and took out a box of silver needles from his interspatial ring. He lightly smiled and said, "It's a very common heart disease. It's not difficult for me." "That's right, Li Chang. Go get a basin of hot water. We'll need it later." "All right." Upon hearing it, Li Chang immediately rushed to the kitchen. A smile outlined on the corner of Tan Xiao's mouth as he whispered with a smile, "Take off your pajamas quickly. I need to take the stent out of your heart. Also, there may be some pain later, but you must endure it." "What? You want to take the stent out of my heart?" Dumbfounded, Luo Yu looked at Tan Xiao and asked with a dumbfounded expression. Tan Xiao glanced at the kitchen door and immediately knocked Luo Yu out. With Shui Yu's help, he took off Luo Yu's pajamas and moved lightning fast, constantly inserting silver needles into the major acupoints around Luo Yu's heart. Afterward, he took out a sharp scalpel. "What are you doing?" A few minutes later, when Li Chang came out of the kitchen with half a basin of hot water, the scene he saw made him so angry that he dashed over and roared. "Shut up if you don't want anything to happen to your wife," shouted Tan Xiao. Li Chang put the hot water on the floor and watched Tan Xiao's hands moving the scalpel smoothly like moving clouds and flowing water. Anger still flashed in his eyes, but he restrained it. "Divine Dr. Tang, I don't care if you're a real divine doctor or a fake one. I just want you to remember that if anything happens to my wife, I'll drag you down with me even if I have to die. You're too noisy. Tan Xiao snorted coldly. As the scalpel's tip picked out the stent in Luo Yu's heart, a steady stream of primal chaos force was quickly injected into it. On the one hand, it helped to stop the bleeding, while on the other hand, it quickly nourished and repaired her heart. Time fleeted by. More than 20 minutes later, Tan Xiao stopped injecting primal chaos force. He carefully took out the needle and thread, and began to suture the wound. His hands were very steady, and although the density of the needle and thread was not high, the effect was very remarkable. After suturing, Tan Xiao washed his hands in the basin of warm water. He then looked at Li Chang and said, "There are a total of 12 silver needles around your wife's heart. Keep in mind that you must not pull them out within 24 hours. I'll come back here 24 hours later, and you'll know whether my treatment is effective or not." Li Chang really wanted to go all out against Tan Xiao. Without his permission, Tan Xiao unexpectedly made the decision to operate on his wife, and even used such a shallow method. However, since things had come to this, he could only accept it and pray to God that his wife would be safe and sound. Chapter 882. Tan Xiao behaved very irresponsibly. After treating Luo Yu, he patted his butt and left with Shui Yu. All he left behind was a prescription and a few simple instructions. In the empty hall, Li Chang wanted to cry but had no tears. He didn't expect that today's encounter would be so bizarre and strange. He didn't expect that the final change would be his wife being operated on. The series of sudden changes caught him off guard, and he didn't know how to deal with the aftermath. Call the police? Call an ambulance? Li Chang repeatedly thought about these two ideas in his mind, but in the end he couldn't make up his mind. He didn't dare to go against Tan Xiao's instructions. If he removed the silver needles from his wife's body and put her life in danger, it would be troublesome. What to do? Li Chang subconsciously took out a cigarette, but he remembered that his wife was not suitable for second-hand smoke, so he immediately threw the cigarette away in annoyance. It's all my fault. If I were as capable as those big shots in the Liu family, that Tang bastard wouldn't have so easily. Those people from the Liu family. Realizing something, Li Chang quickly grabbed his mobile phone and a business card. He dialed the phone number on the business card and soon got in touch with Song Donglai, the owner of Green Lake Agricola. From Song Donglai, he successfully got the private phone number of Liu Pinxin, the head of the Liu family. Of course, most of the reason why everything went so smoothly was because of Tan Xiao, which made Song Donglai mistakenly believe that Li Chang was Tan Xiao's man. "Hello, who is this?" After the call went through, Liu Pinxin's voice came from the phone. Judging from his tone, Liu Pinxin had not rested yet. Li Chang held the phone and said carefully, "Hello, Patriarch Liu. I'm Li Chang. I was the one who ate with Tan Xiao at Green Lake Agricola today. I didn't disturb your rest, did I?" "You are Mr. Li?" Liu Pinxin said in surprise. Li Chang quickly said, "That's right, it's me. Sorry to disturb you so late at night. But I have something to ask you, so. Haha. Brother Li, feel free to ask me anything. I won't hide anything from you as long as I know it." Liu Pinxin's hearty laughter came from the phone. Brother Li? Li Chang couldn't help but shiver in his heart. With Liu Pinxin's status, wealth and power, he was probably just an ant in his eyes in the past. Who would have thought that there would be a day when such a famous person would also call him Brother Li? Is it because of Tan Xiao? A complicated look flashed in Li Chang's eyes as he asked. "Patriarch Liu, I really don't understand. Why are you so respectful to Tan Xiao today? Also, why does your mother value Tan Xiao so much? Even if he is the big boss of the magnificent Tang Corporation, your Liu family is not worse than his Tang family. Even if he's a great Chinese medicine practitioner, he can't be better than the specialists and professors of those large hospitals, right?" Liu Pinxin was silent for more than 10 seconds and then slowly asked, "Are you not familiar with Divine Dr. Tang?" Li Chang's heart skipped a beat. His eyes flickered with wisdom as he said, "I'm indeed not very familiar with her. Today, we got to know each other for a very special reason. However, he wants me to work for him in the future and said that he wants to train me to be his confidant. That's why I want to inquire more about him from you. Divine Dr. Tang wants to train you to be his confidant? Lu Pinxin was shocked. Yeah. Li Chang let out a hollow laugh. Lu Pinxin's tone was full of envy as he sighed. Brother Li, I didn't expect you to be so lucky to be favored by Divine Dr. Tang. If he likes me, I'm willing to serve him even if I don't want to be the Lu family's patriarch. I can answer your question. But don't forget me after you become rich and powerful later. Lu Pinxin's words scared Li Chang. After a while he stuttered. No problem. Don't forget me when you become rich and powerful. Lu Pinxin was very satisfied with Li Chang's answer. He cleared his throat and said, since Divine Dr. Tang wants to train you as his confidant, it proves that you're outstanding, Brother Li. Also, I believe you'll know his true identity sooner or later, so I'll tell you in advance. But don't disclose what I said to anyone else. Please tell me. I'll never disclose it to a third person, said Li Chang hurriedly. Divine Dr. Tang has another title, Grandmaster Tang, said Lu Pinxin. He's a cultivator with a mysterious and unfathomable power. He's very powerful, very powerful. I'm afraid that ordinary people like us are no different from ants in his eyes. What is a cultivator? A Taoist priest in a Taoist temple? Li Chang was puzzled and asked, how can those Taoist priests in ordinary Taoist temples be compared to Grandmaster Tang? Lu Pinxin forced a smile. Grandmaster Tang is a real cultivator, a great figure who pursues cultivation and power. He's a living immortal in the eyes of mortals. That's right, there are a lot of Xianxia novels on the internet. You can have a look at them. They're talking about people like him. Xianxia novels? Li Chang hung up the phone in a daze and quickly turned on his computer to search for keywords such as cultivator and Xianxia novels on the internet. Soon, a lot of information appeared. It took him 2 hours. Li Chang looked at a lot of searched keywords, and now, his heart was trembling. The shock he felt toward Tan Xiu's identity had reached an indescribable level. He didn't expect that the legendary celestial immortals actually existed in this world. He never thought that such a celestial immortal figure would have an intersection with him. He didn't believe in others. But he believed in the Lu family's patriarch, Lu Pinxin, because this person's identity was too high. He would never lie to him. Furthermore, the things that happened tonight made him realize that Tan Xiu's identity as a cultivator was probably true. A true god. Li Chang turned off his computer and looked up at his sleeping wife on the sofa. After detecting her breath and measuring her body temperature with a thermometer, he found that his wife's vital signs were very stable. Therefore, his restless heart slowly calmed down. The next day, Li Chang didn't leave home even half a step. Even though his wife had woken up at noon, he still stayed by her side. As for the prescription, he asked a good friend to help him go to the medicinal herbs market and buy all the medicinal herbs he needed. How do you feel, honey? Asked Li Chang with concern as he watched his wife drink the whole bowl of Chinese medicine. Very good. I haven't felt so comfortable for years, said Luoyu with a chuckle. I used to feel stuffy inside, like a rock was pressing down on my heart. But now, I feel that the rock has suddenly been removed, making me feel a lot more relaxed. And this Chinese medicine, after I drank it, I felt warm all over and very comfortable. I also have more strength than before. Upon hearing this, Li Chang was sure that Tan Xiu's treatment was really effective, and the effect was much better than having an operation in the hospital. Full of excitement, he said, let's wait for a while more. Divine Dr. Tang said that he can pull out the silver needles in your body tonight. I'll call him at that time and ask if he'll come in person. All right. Luoyu nodded with a smile. Chang City Hotel. After Tan Xiu and Shuiyu came to the cafeteria on the second floor, they saw Boss Huang with a bloody nose and swollen face, hiding in the corner and making a phone call. The food in front of him was steaming hot with smoke and a rich aroma, but he didn't seem to have the slightest appetite. Tan Xiu seems to have been cleaned up very miserably. Shuiyu held Tan Xiu's arm and chuckled. That fella is lascivious by nature, said Tan Xiu with a smile. This time, he was blinded by lard and wanted to hit you. If I don't make him pay the price, it'll be hard for him to teach him a lesson. I'll tell you a secret. He'll completely lose his ability as a man in half a year at most. You're really naughty. said Shuiyu with a chuckle. No, it has nothing to do with me. Tan Xiu shook his head. It was Shueisha and He Xiong who did it. Alright, let's not talk about him and eat first. We'll go out for a stroll in the afternoon, and then go to Li Chang's house in the evening. Although I've cured his wife's heart disease, she still needs to recuperate for some time. I'll give them some instructions when I pull out the silver needles. Shuiyu nodded. After glancing at the dining room a few times, she suddenly asked curiously, Aro has been with you as far as I know. But I haven't seen him since you came back last night. Where did he go? I sent him to monitor some people. I'll take you to see a good show tomorrow, said Tan Xiu with a smile. What good show? Asked Shuiyu curiously. Fighting, said Tan Xiu. What do you mean? Asked Shuiyu confused. Fighting for life, fighting for the world's destiny, and fighting for the great Tao's opportunity, said Tan Xiu with a smile. I won't tell you the details for the time being. You'll know about it tomorrow night. Shuiyu let out a faint smile and said, Then let's not talk about it. Last night, the ancestor sent someone to call me and asked me to ask you when you can go to Nine Dragons Island. She seems to be a bit anxious. Tan Xiu pondered for a moment and said, Let's go to Nine Dragons Island after we come back from Kana's. The reconstruction project there has reached the final stage, and I need to deal with the final finishing touches. Otherwise, it won't become the paradise that I've always dreamed of. At the corner of the dining room, Boss Huang suppressed the rage in his chest. After he hung up the phone, his face looked a little murderous. He was tricked by that woman last night, and then got beaten up by those two bastards. It made him so angry that he almost went crazy. Therefore, he called his men and asked them to rush over here. He was determined to find those bastards who beat him last night, as well as that unbelievably beautiful bitch. Motherfucker. Don't let me find you again, else I'll kill you. Boss Huang then threw the phone on the table, grabbed the chopsticks, and took a bite of the food. But because he opened his mouth, the wound on the corner of his mouth made him gasp in pain. I swear I'm not a man if I don't avenge this enmity. Boss Huang endured the pain and swore inwardly. After losing the mood to eat, he looked up and his eyes happened to fall on Tan Xiu and Shuiyu not far away. Chapter 883. Full of anger, Boss Huang strode toward Tan Xiu and Shuiyu. He had figured out the whole thing. Shuiyu stood him up yesterday, and the two big men appeared and violently beat him up. It was all a scheme against him. Boss Huang pointed at the two men and roared, You two fucking bastards! How dare you plot against me? I'll take your surname if I don't kill you today. You're not that stupid. Tan Xiu shook his head with a smile. While opening the menu, he shook his head and smilingly said, Even if you want to take our surname, we won't dare to agree. It's because we haven't planned to have children yet. It's not like we can suddenly have a son or grandson, right? A cunning look flashed in Shuiyu's eyes as she cooperated with him and said, No, I'll strangle him to death if I have such a lecherous son or grandson. Ha ha ha. Tan Xiu didn't expect that Shuiyu could say such words. He looked at her with satisfaction and turned to look at Boss Huang, saying with a smile, Did you hear that? You're not qualified to be our grandson or grandson, so get the hell out of here. Else, it won't be fun if you're really strangled to death. Boss Huang's face turned red and a look of humiliation flashed in his eyes. His murderous eyes swept over Tan Xiu and Shuiyu as he laughed out of extreme anger. Good, good, good. You've got guts. Just wait for me. This matter is not over yet. Having said that, he turned around and returned to the dining table, picked up his briefcase and mobile phone, and directly strode away without eating. Tan Xiu watched him leave and shook his head. Being able to become a boss proves that he has a bit of ability. But it's a pity that this kind of bad character and reckless lust won't have a good end in the future. Anyways, let's not talk about him anymore. It's just a waste of time. Alright. Shuiyu gently nodded with a smile. In her opinion, Tan Xiu was too outstanding and dazzling, so she didn't like other men at all. In the evening, Tan Xiu and Shuiyu came to Li Chang's house again. They pulled out the silver needles from Li Chang's wife, Luoyu, and finished the diagnosis. After that, he said with satisfaction, She's fine now. She just needs to rest and recuperate for the next 2 to 3 months. I guarantee that she'll be as healthy as a normal person after that. However, don't stop taking the Chinese medicine I prescribed. Not only is it effective in nourishing the heart, but it's also very effective in treating kidney deficiency and kidney failure. Li Chang hurriedly asked, Brother Tang, can my wife really be like an ordinary person in the future? Then can I get pregnant? Tan Xiu smiled and said, Of course, no problem. Li Chang looked excited. He rubbed his hands and said, That's great. We used to seek medical treatment everywhere. The conclusion we got was that my wife not only had heart disease, but also had kidney problems. She couldn't conceive a child at all. Brother Tang, Divine Dr. Tang, thank you so much. Tan Xiu waved his hand and said, You don't need to be so polite with me. It's enough as long as you screw that manager Huang and come to work for me in the magnificent Tang Corporation. Li Chang said resolutely, I promise to complete the task. Knock, knock. The door was knocked and a voice came from the outside. Are you home, brother? Open the door. Li Chang stared blankly for a moment before he was pleasantly surprised and said, My younger sister is back. Having said that, he sprinted to the door. After opening the door, he looked at the tall girl outside and smilingly said, Xinjia, I didn't expect you to come back so soon. There's a distinguished guest at home. Hurry up and come in. A distinguished guest? Who is it? The tall girl smiled and strode through the door. When she saw Tan Xiu in the living room, she was slightly startled and looked incredulous as she called out, Tan Xiu, why are you at my house? Tan Xiu looked at the newcomer with a strange expression and asked, Is this your house, Li Xinjia? Yeah, said Li Xinjia. Li Chang and Luo Yu on the sofa exchanged dismayed glances. After a while, Li Chang asked with a surprised expression, Do you know my younger sister, Brother Tang? We're both students of Shanghai University, said Tan Xiu with a smile. No way. Li Chang was surprised. You're already the big boss of the famous magnificent Tang Corporation. Yet you're still a student of Shanghai University? You're not joking with me, are you? Brother, Tan Xiu isn't joking. He's a freshman at Shanghai University and should be a sophomore after the summer vacation, said Li Xinjia. What's wrong? Tan Xiu also laughed. I'm the owner of the magnificent Tang Corporation. So why can't I be a student of Shanghai University? Didn't the ancients say that there's no end to the sea of learning? Take advantage of your youth to learn more things, and you'll be able to go further and have greater achievements in the future. These words are also for you. Even if you're an expert in sales, you'll have to work and learn at the same time if you want to climb faster and climb higher after joining the magnificent Tang Corporation in the future. All right, I got it. Li Chang nodded and replied with a serious face. Li Xinjia was stunned and asked in surprise, Tan Xiu, you said that my brother will work for the magnificent Tang Corporation later? That's right, you haven't told me how you got to know each other. Also, how did you come to Chang City, Tan Xiu? I came to Chang City to do something and happened to bump into your brother, said Tan Xiu with a smile. He's definitely a good sales talent, so I'm going to let him work for the magnificent Tang Corporation later. Li Xinjia immediately understood and happily said, Thank you, Tan Xiu. I know my brother is amazing. Li Chang let out a hollow laugh and looked at his wife Luo Yu. He hurriedly said, Xinjia, we really must thank Brother Tang. He cured your sister-in-law's heart disease, and is our family's great benefactor. Li Xinjia stared blankly and immediately became ecstatic. My sister-in-law's heart disease has been cured? That's great. Thank you, Tan Xiu. Thank you so much. It's all my fault. I knew that you're a famous divine doctor, but I didn't ask you to treat my sister-in-law. All right, no need to thank me again. Tan Xiu waved his hand. That's right. Let me introduce you. This is Shuiyu. She's a postgraduate student at Shanghai University and Mu Weiniang's roommate. Mu Weiniang? Shuiyu's expression slightly changed, but she concealed it in an instant. After Li Xinjia returned home, she saw the breathtakingly beautiful Shuiyu. Although she had been suppressing the questions inside her heart, she realized that the relationship between this woman named Shuiyu and Tan Xiu was definitely not ordinary after hearing Tan Xiu's introduction. You are? Li Xinjia hesitated for a moment before asking. She's my woman, said Tan Xiao after being silent for a moment. What did you say? Exclaimed Li Xinjie. If she's your woman then what about Wei Ning? Wei Ning knows her, said Tan Xiao. She knows her? Asked Li Xinjie incredulously. She also knows Wei Ning? Shuiyu stretched out her hand and calmly said, I know Mu Wei Ning. She's Tan Xiao's real girlfriend, the first campus belle of Shanghai University and the first beauty in the imperial capital. She's a very outstanding woman. Li Xinjie's lips squirmed and she couldn't help but ask, Then you? What you want to ask is why I'm still willing to follow Tan Xiao, said Shuiyu calmly. That's right. I can answer you that I'm indeed willing to follow him for the rest of my life. Not only me, but other women will also follow him even if they know about Mu Weining's existence. Li Xinjie was shocked. She really couldn't understand this fairy-like beautiful woman in front of her. Tan Xiao didn't want to talk about this anymore and said, My mission has been completed. Remember what I said. You must pay attention to rest and recuperate in the next 2 or 3 months. Don't stop taking Chinese medicine and drink it for 3 months. We still have something to do, so we'll take our leave first. Shortly after, Tan Xiao left with Shuiyu. In the hall, Luo Yu waved her hand and called Li Xinjie to her side. She pulled her hand and asked, Xinjie, you seem to be very familiar with this divine Dr. Tang? Sister-in-law, I live in the same dormitory with his real girlfriend, and we're very good sisters. How could I not be familiar with him? Li Xinjie forced a wry smile. It's just that I didn't expect that he has other women besides Wei Ning. Moreover, this woman's figure, appearance, and temperament are not worse than Wei Ning's. Luo Yu was silent for a moment. She then shook her head and said, Remember Xinjie. Other people's relationship issues are their business. Even if you have a deep relationship with that girl named Mu Weining, don't meddle in it. Else you'll be embarrassed. Li Xinjie nodded without saying a word. The next day, after Tan Xiao and Shuiyu checked out of the Chong City Hotel, they walked out of the hotel's entrance. However, to Tan Xiao's surprise, there were a lot of gangster-like people in the vicinity, pretending to stroll around. We're in trouble, said Shuiyu in a low voice. It's a trouble for others, but it's nothing for us, said Tan Xiao lightly. Let's go. We'll go straight to Green Lake Agricola. Tonight should be the time to watch the show. Creak. After the Mercedes-Benz SUV stopped, Tan Xiao and Shuiyu directly boarded the car. Seeing that many gangsters in the surroundings moved quickly, and even 2 black SUVs stopped behind them, Tan Xiao sneered and said, Jin Shi, drive slowly. Let those people follow us. Boss, do you want to let Xue Xia and He Xiong deal with those people? Asked Jin Shi. No need. Tan Xiao shook his head and said, Since that surnamed Huang wants to play, then let's play with him first. Today, a major event was bound to happen in Green Lake Agricola. Those people should be powerful figures, at least martial artists with extraordinary strength. If that surnamed Huang ordered his gangster underlings to rush into Green Lake Agricola, it would be fun to watch. Your smile is a bit sinister, Tan Xiao, said Shuiyu with a smile. Am I? Tan Xiao let out a strange smile. How come I don't feel it? Tan Xiao smiled and said, It's true. It's like I can already see it. That Huang pervert is going to be out of luck soon. However, if I were to clean him up now, would it affect your later plans? After all, you want Li Chang to work for the magnificent Tang Corporation. Chapter 884. Tan Xiao was very concerned about Boss Huang's life. After all, Li Chang would follow him for some time in the future. After discovering that Boss Huang wanted to retaliate against him, an idea popped into Tan Xiao's mind. It was a good idea that could kill 2 birds with 1 stone. It won't affect him. Tan Xiao lit a cigarette and looked out the window saying, That Huang won't die this time. He'll be taught a lesson at most. But those local thugs under his command won't have such good luck. Quickly, the Mercedes-Benz was only a few kilometers away from Green Lake Agricola. Jin Shi, who was driving, immediately stopped the car on the roadside after noticing Mo. Boss, Green Lake Agricola is suspended for business. Mo stood outside the window and respectfully reported as Tan Xiao opened the window. How's the situation in the Agricola? Asked Tan Xiao. He's hiding his killing intent, said Mo. The 64 experts trained by Song Donglai, Ao Wei, and Gong Quan are all hidden. Yesterday, there was also a martial artist surnamed Han who came here. Including Song Donglai and the other two, there are a total of 68 people in the Agricola. The entire Agricola is now an array. It's easy to enter, but it's very difficult to come out. Tan Xiu nodded indifferently and said, "Get on the car. Let's go inside." Mo complied and sat in the front passenger seat. The Mercedes-Benz SUV then drove toward Green Lake Agricola. After entering the wide road, they quickly saw the gate of the Agricola. At this time, the gate of the Agricola was no longer as lively as it used to be. Even the security guards at the gate had been removed. The moment Tan Xiu got off the car, he released his spiritual sense to cover the area within a radius of 200 to 300 meters. From his observation, he saw dozens of stalwart men armed with weapons hiding in various hidden corners. Among them, more than a dozen of them had already noticed their arrival. Guns. Tan Xiu didn't expect that Song Donglai's men would have guns. Within the range of his spiritual sense, a total of 4 men armed with guns were hiding in various directions, with their muzzles aimed at the gate. "Someone's coming, boss." Jinshi, who was following behind Tan Xiu, suddenly spoke. Tan Xiu nodded and looked at Song Donglai, who was walking over from a short distance away. This time, only Song Donglai came out. As for his 2 friends and his subordinates, they didn't appear. "Mr. Tang." Song Donglai came to Tan Xiu with a smile on his face and greeted him respectfully. Tan Xiu smiled faintly and said, "Not bad. This formation is quite interesting." "You must be joking, Mr. Tang." Song Donglai forced a wry smile and said, "That's all we can do, though I don't know how many people from the Lien family will come this time. If there are too many of them, or if the ancestors of the Lien family take action, I'm afraid it will be very difficult for us to win." "If Mr. Tang can." Tan Xiu raised his hand to interrupt him. He shook his head and said, "I have no enmity with the Liens, so I have no reason to attack them. The grudges between the two of you will be settled by yourselves. I'm only here to be a witness. I won't get involved in your feud." "Mr. Tang, you," said Song Donglai bitterly. Tan Xiu interrupted him again and calmly said, "You won't get much benefit from me helping you. You must rely on yourself if you want to get that opportunity and become a true cultivator. Only the sword in your hand can cut through the thistles and thorns in the struggle for the great Tao. If you rely on me to easily deal with the Lien family, you will lack this tempering, which will cause problems in your state of mind in the future. This time, you're fighting with the Lien family, but it's also a fight with yourself." "State of mind? Fighting with myself?" Song Donglai faintly realized the meaning Tan Xiu wanted to express. After a moment of silence, he said, "Can I ask you something, Mr. Tang? It's a very simple matter. If we brothers die here today, can you send someone to send our corpses back to our families? The fallen leaves will return to their roots, and our families will be our final resting place." "I promise you." Tan Xiu nodded. Song Donglai shot a grateful look at Tan Xiu and suddenly said, "Mr. Tang, I'll give this Green Lake Agricola to you if we brothers all die in battle. Consider it my thanks for agreeing to help me." Tan Xiu shook his head and said, "A gentleman loves money, but he must obtain it in a proper way. I can kill you and occupy your property if we're enemies, but I can't accept it this time. This Green Lake Agricola will be the property of your Song family if all of you die in battle. However, I hope you can live and fight for a chance to survive. I hope you can enter the Tao through martial arts and become a true cultivator." "Donglai will engrave Mr. Tang's teachings in my heart," said Song Donglai respectfully. "I won't intervene in your affairs, but I don't mind making a deal with you if you can survive and successfully break through to the qi refining stage," said Tan Xiu with a smile. "What deal?" asked Song Donglai confused. "I'll sell you a cultivation art," said Tan Xiu with a smile. Song Donglai's body trembled violently, and a look of ecstasy burst from his eyes as he hurriedly asked, "Mr. Tang, as long as we can break through to the qi refining stage you mentioned, we're willing to buy that cultivation art no matter how big the price is." Tan Xiu let out a faint smile and said, "All right, continue with the preparations. This Agricola will soon turn into a battlefield, so it's inconvenient for us to stay here. Remember my words. I don't care about your fight with the Lien family, but you must not involve ordinary people, else I won't mind getting rid of an evil for the people. Understood, replied Song Donglai with a solemn expression. Tan Xiu put his arm around Shui Yu's shoulder and hugged her toward the depths of the Agricola, followed by Shueisha and Heixiong. The 6 of them passed through the Agricola and came to the edge of the mountain. This kind of blood python formation was very powerful to others, but to Tan Xiu, it was full of loopholes. He easily brought everyone out of the blood python formation and quickly rushed to the hillside hundreds of meters away. This place is not bad. On a relatively flat hillside, Tan Xiu's gaze swept across several large bluestones. He then clasped his hands behind his back and looked down at the green lake Agricola at the foot of the hill. Those people who are following us should be outside the green lake Agricola now, said Shuiyu. What are you going to do next? Of course I'm going to find Boss Huang's savior, said Tan Xiu with a smile. Finished. He took out his mobile phone and dialed Li Chong's cell number. After the other party answered, he said, contact Green Lake Agricola's boss, Song Donglai. Tell him not to stop anyone from coming to the Agricola. I brought them to the spacious hall and provided them with good wine and food. I treated them as cannon fodder. Remember, after you get here, your first mission is to protect Boss Huang and earn his trust. Shall I set off now? Asked Li Chong. That's right. Now, replied Tan Xiu with a smile. At the entrance of the Green Lake Agricola, 2 black SUVs were parked outside. On the front passenger seat of the car in front was a middle-aged man with a ferocious scar on his left cheek. He frowned and took out his mobile phone. After dialing a cell number, he said, Boss, those people just entered the Green Lake Agricola. Don't alert them. Just wait for me. Boss Huang's deep voice came out of the phone. Half an hour later, a black Audi and 2 Jinbei vans arrived. After Boss Huang got off the Audi, he asked in a heavy voice, Where are those bastards? They're inside. They haven't come out yet, answered the scarred man. I've been to this Green Lake Agricola a few times, sneered Boss Huang. There's only one way in and out. Since they're still inside, I'm going to kill them today. Remember this when you make your move. Beat all the men to death, but don't touch that woman. I'll fucking be her son if I don't make her perform 108 postures today. The scarred man grinned and said, Boss, can you let us have some fun if you're tired of playing with them? I've seen that woman. She's the best beauty I've ever seen in my life. Boss Huang glanced at him. He took out a cigarette and lit it up. After taking 2 puffs, he nodded and said, Just wait until I'm tired of playing with her. Then you can have your fun. A few minutes later, Boss Huang led more than 20 thugs with clubs and strode into the Agricola. What puzzled him was that it was almost noon now. It should be a good time for the Agricola to have a good business. So how come there were no guests at noon today? Something's not right. Boss Huang passed through the corridor and came to the spacious hall inside. He suddenly stopped and shouted in a deep voice. What's wrong, boss? Asked the scarred man, confused. Boss Huang cautiously observed the surroundings and said in a deep voice, Haven't you noticed that we've been inside for several minutes, yet we haven't seen a single person? Also, I've been here a few times before. The business here is very good, with many guests, security guards at the entrance and many waiters. But now, there's no one here. The scarred man's heart thumped upon hearing it and he hurriedly said, Did we fall into their trap, boss? Boss Huang took a deep breath and cautiously said, Let's leave this place first. Let's wait outside. At this moment, Song Donglai came over with the middle-aged manager Wang. After seeing Boss Huang's group, he smiled and said in a clear voice, Isn't this Boss Huang? What kind of wind blew you here today? But, what kind of show are you playing today? I don't think I've offended you, so why did you bring so many people here? Do you want to smash my Agricola? Boss Huang knew Song Donglai and was aware that the latter had some ability in Chong City, so he let out a hollow laugh and said, You misunderstood me, Boss Song. Since when did I bring people to smash your place? It's mainly because some bastards ran to your place and we chased after them. Song Donglai deliberately showed a look of realization and said, I know who you're talking about. I only have one group of guests here today, but they seem to have something to deal with and left. Chapter 885. Boss Huang was dumbfounded. He looked at Song Donglai, who didn't look like he was lying. He hesitated for a moment before turning to look at the scar-faced man. The scar-faced man hurriedly said, "Boss, I dare to hit my chest and swear that those people have never left. After they had entered the farmhouse, we had been blocking the entrance. If what you said is true and there's only one exit in this farmhouse, the other party is definitely still here. Those guests left more than half an hour ago." Song Donglai shook his head. "They left the car here and left in a hurry from the back of the mountain. They seem to be in a panic." "Ran away?" Boss Huang was dumbfounded. Scarface was even more dumbfounded, and at a loss of what to do. After a long while, Boss Huang looked around and asked, "Boss Song, your place looks a little different today. If I remember correctly, your business used to be booming, and it would be packed at lunchtime. Why is it so quiet today? Not only are there no customers, but even the waiters are nowhere to be seen?" Song Donglai proudly smiled and said, "You're quite well informed, Boss Huang. Don't you know that my shop is closed for 3 days? For the sake of the big plan I'm preparing, I'm going all out." Boss Huang was puzzled. "Grand plan? What grand plan? I've been quite busy lately, so I didn't have time to drop by." Song Donglai clapped and smilingly said, "It's better to come at the right time than to be early. Boss Huang, your visit today is really a happy occasion for me. My grand plan is that in the past 3 days, our chefs here have been researching new recipes and have just come up with results. I believe that once our new menu is presented to the customers, it will definitely be greatly welcomed by them." "How is my visit today a happy occasion for you?" asked Boss Huang with a smile. "However, it is a good thing that we have developed a new recipe." "Boss Huang, who are you?" asked Song Donglai. "You are a big boss who has tasted all kinds of delicacies. My new product has just been successfully developed, and you just happened to come here. Isn't this a happy occasion? I was just worried that no one would try it, and then you came. How about this? All the brothers you brought here today can stay and try our new dish. Don't worry, I won't take a single cent. You just have to tell me how it tastes after you taste it." "Ah." Boss Huang stared at Song Donglai with a dumbfounded expression. He never dreamed that he would encounter such a thing. His main purpose of coming to Green Lake Agricola this time was to seek revenge. But in the end, he didn't even see his enemy. Instead, he could eat and drink for free here? He turned his head to look at the more than 20 men behind him, who looked tempted. After hesitating for a while, he nodded and said, "We can't refuse Boss Song's kind invitation. Since that bastard and that bitch have already escaped, I'll settle the score with him another day." "All right, let's go," said Song Donglai with a satisfied smile. "Everyone, please follow me to the dining room first. I'll tell the kitchen staff to prepare the dishes and bring them here immediately. By the way, since Boss Huang has helped me a lot today, I still have an unopened bottle of God's nectar. Shall we have a drink later?" "God's nectar?" Boss Huang's spirit was shaken and he subconsciously gulped. He nodded without hesitation and said, "That's great. I like God's nectar the most." Chang City. On the highway dozens of kilometers away from Green Lake Agricola, 6 Wrangler SUVs roared as they sped toward Green Lake Agricola. In the third car, with a cigarette dangling from the corner of his mouth, killing intent flashed in Lien Bai's eyes. The street scenery outside flashed before his eyes, but he didn't have the mood to appreciate it. The enmity of killing his younger brother was absolutely irreconcilable. As the patriarch of the Lien family, Lien Bai had endured a lot of things in his life, but the most unbearable thing was that his younger brother died in the hands of a few bastards. He could seek revenge without any scruples if they were ordinary people, but these 3 enemies were not ordinary people. Ao family, Song family and Gong family. Lien Bai fiercely threw the cigarette, but out of the window. The killing intent in his heart was getting stronger. "I'll get rid of Ao Wei, Song Donglai and Gong Quan first. I've spent a lot of effort this time to invite the 2 ancestors who have been in seclusion for many years, as well as a large number of experts from my Lien family. If I don't kill the 3 of you, I Lien Bai am not a man. After getting rid of the 3 of you, I'll deal with your families next. My Lien family is not afraid of any of you, but we can't be enemies with all 3 of you at the same time. However, all of you just wait. Wait for me to slowly accumulate my strength, and one day, I will massacre your 3 clans. Suddenly, a flame burst out of Lianbai's palm. The egg-sized flame exuded an intense heat, causing the temperature inside the Wrangler SUV to suddenly rise. Patriarch! Lianpeng called out in a low voice from the front passenger seat. Lianbai glanced at Lianpeng and immediately retracted the flame, asking in a deep voice, "How far are we from our destination?" "More than 30 kilometers," answered Lianpeng. Lianbai was silent for a moment and slowly said, "Remember this. Don't worry about anyone if you encounter danger. Just run for your life at the fastest speed. I've been feeling a bit restless these days. It's like a trap is waiting for us." "It's actually a trap," said Lianpeng. "However, traps are also divided into big and small. If the trap is too small and can't accommodate the huge prey, it won't play any role. We've invited the 2 ancestors this time, so those 3 bastards must die even if they have the ability to reach the heavens." Lianbai was silent for a moment and slowly said, "We still can't be careless. Littleya is a new face, so let him go in ahead of time to inquire about the situation. Given his ability, even if there's a problem inside, only a few people can catch him." "Littleya is indeed a genius in practicing the shadow technique," said Lianpeng with a smile. "Even if Song Donglai's territory is full of crisis, it won't be much pressure for him." Shortly after, 6 cars were parked a few kilometers away from the Green Lake Agricola. A young man in a black training suit with a long sword on his back came down from the second car. He glanced around and then quickly rushed toward the Green Lake Agricola. He was Littleya. He was a talent cultivated by the Lian family's patriarch. Due to his special ability since childhood, he had undergone cruel training and had extremely powerful means in assassination, tracking, and investigation. He had even accepted assassin missions abroad and became famous as Ghost Shadow in just 3 years, and was ranked in the top 20 of the world's assassin ranking list. A few minutes later, just as Yachan approached the Green Lake Agricola, its body suddenly twisted a few times and it disappeared into thin air. Only the fluctuations in the air indicated that he had easily entered the Green Lake Agricola. Sure enough, it's a trap. Littleya kept appearing in the nearby hidden corners of the Agricola, and saw more than a dozen hidden experts with his own eyes. Soon after, he had a general understanding of the situation inside the Agricola, and also had a clear understanding of the situation inside. Just as he stealthily left the Agricola, his complexion suddenly changed. What the hell is this? An invisible energy shield blocked his way. Just at this moment, in a hidden room in the depths of the Green Lake Agricola, Ao Wei's complexion suddenly changed and he shouted in a deep voice, "Go check it out quickly. Someone wants to leave the blood python array. Find out who it is." Understood. 4 stalwart men rushed out of the room at the same time. The 4 men kept calling out to them and searched for more than 10 minutes. Yet they couldn't find any trace of anyone who wanted to leave. "There's no one, boss," one of the stalwart men reported through a walkie-talkie. Ao Wei said in a deep voice, "Someone is definitely trying to leave. The blood python array has been triggered, and the other party is still constantly attacking the energy layer of the blood python array. Search carefully and send more people. We must find this person for me." Understood. As the number of people increased, more than 20 people quickly joined the search. However, they couldn't find the culprit's figure no matter how hard they searched. Gong Quan silently appeared at the entrance of the Agricola with a dagger in his hand. His sharp eyes flickered with a cold glint as he constantly observed the surroundings. Suddenly, a ripple appeared in the air a dozen meters away from him, causing his complexion to change. Nearly without the slightest hesitation, his figure shot forward like an arrow and dashed toward the ripple in the air. Die. Gong Quan swung his dagger without a target, but a dozen seconds after he waved his arm, a bloodstain appeared out of thin air. In the blink of an eye, Littleya in a black training suit appeared. At the same time, the 2 darts in Littleya's hands instantly shot toward Gong Quan's glabella and throat. God damn it. Gong Quan possessed amazing strength and had long broken through to the martial Dao Grandmaster realm. The moment he sensed the approaching danger, he abruptly moved half a meter and dodged the darts that were aimed at his glabella and throat lightning fast. However, because the distance of the darts was very close to him and there was no warning. One of the darts still tore a bloody wound on his cheek. Who the hell are you? Gong Quan violently retreated 7 to 8 meters back and shouted at Little Ye. Little Ye's brows were tightly furrowed, but he contemptuously looked at Gong Quan before his figure flickered and disappeared without a trace. His speed was very fast and he dashed into the Agricola lightning fast without Gong Quan's sight. Invisibility? Damn it. Everyone listen up. Pay attention to your surroundings. A bastard has sneaked in and is able to turn invisible. Gong Quan cursed and roared loudly. In a flash, most of the people in the entire Agricola heard Gong Quan's roar. Inside the restaurant, Boss Huang and more than 20 of his men were waiting for the food and drinks to be delivered. It had been nearly half an hour, yet the food and drinks had yet to be delivered, making him somewhat dissatisfied. What's that sound? The Scarface man heard the shout but couldn't hear it clearly, so he immediately asked with a puzzled expression. It sounds like someone is shouting, but I can't hear what he's shouting, said Boss Huang curiously. It's strange. This Agricola is really a bit strange today. Chapter 886. On the flat hillside several hundred meters away, Tanshio was calmly overlooking the situation in Green Lake Agricola with his hands behind his back. Others might not be able to see it clearly, but he clearly saw the brief fight between Gong Quan and Xiaoya. Invisibility technique? Tanshio didn't expect that there was such a brilliant invisibility technique on Earth. Even he couldn't see how the black-clothed youth sneaked into the Green Lake Agricola. Behind him. It's Ghost Shadow Boss, said Mo Ao in a deep voice. Do you know him? Tanshio turned his head and curiously asked. I've read his information, and there's nothing wrong with his appearance. Mo Ao nodded. His invisibility technique is the same as Ghost Shadow's. He can disappear and reappear out of thin air. He's one of the top 20 killers in the world, a cold-blooded animal who has committed inhuman killings in Southeast Asia and some parts of Africa. He's like a lot of homicidal maniacs. Not only does he kill the mission target, but he also wantonly slaughters ordinary people. As far as I know, the number of ordinary people who died in his hands is definitely more than 1,000. Tanshio's expression turned cold and asked, So he's from the Lien family? I don't know about that. Mo Ao shook his head. His origin is very mysterious. Even the assassin organization he once belonged to doesn't know his real background. It's like he appeared out of thin air and caused a lot of killings in various countries all over the world. But then, he disappeared without a trace in just a few years. Tanshio nodded and no longer spoke. Inside Green Lake Agricola, Xiaoya's face was full of gloominess. Even though he was hiding in the dark, his heart was hanging high. He used to kill people like flies, but he had never been so afraid like now. He found that the Agricola he was in was too strange. It was smooth when he came in, but he couldn't leave. What the hell is that energy shield? Xiaoya looked at the corner of the wall a dozen meters away, where two stalwart men wielding long blades were observing the surroundings. His mood was particularly depressed. He didn't attack the two stalwart men because there were 6 experts lurking in the other 2 directions. As long as he killed the 2 stalwart men, the people in the other 2 directions would immediately notice him and besiege him. Through observation, he discovered that the enemies here weren't very strong, but for some reason, he felt fear in his heart. It was as if somewhere, in some corner, there was something terrifying staring at him, as if it could attack him at any time. I have to go out and find a way to inform the patriarch. Otherwise, if someone from the clan were to recklessly barge in, it's very likely that they would all be annihilated. A few kilometers away from Green Lake Agricola, Lianbai was smoking a cigarette next to the 6 off-road vehicles parked by the roadside. His eyes flickered, and he was obviously thinking about something. By air. 2 white-haired old men walked over. Their bodies exuded a heavy aura of lethargy, but their bodies were tall and straight, and their footsteps were very steady. Lianbai quickly threw away the cigarette butt and respectfully said, Ancestor. Lian Wentian and Lian Wenxin were the 2 ancestors of the Lian family. Lian Wentian asked, What's going on? Since you know where the enemy is, why aren't you moving? I've sent Little Ye to sneak into the Green Lake Agricola to gather information. He should be able to easily find out the situation there with his ability, said Lian Bai. It's just that he has been there for a while and hasn't returned yet. Our Lian family has sent our elite troops this time, said Lian Wentian indifferently. Do we need to be so careful with just a few juniors of the occult family? The way I see it, we should go over right now and kill them with the momentum of destroying everything in our way. Ancestor, know your enemy and know yourself and you will always be victorious, said Lian Bai quickly. I have no doubt that we can kill all those bastards. But I'm the patriarch, so I have to think about our clansmen. We can formulate a better combat plan after we figure out the enemy's situation. And we can also reduce the losses of our clansmen. Lian Wentian pondered for a moment before he nodded and said, What you said makes sense. We all know Little Ya's ability. Since he hasn't come back yet, it means that this Green Lake Agricola is not simple. Let's wait and see. If Little Ya hasn't come back in 10 minutes, then we'll directly attack. Lian Bai thought for a while and said, It's up to you, ancestor. Lian Wenxin, who had been silent all this time, suddenly said, My 9 fetuses of 100 ghost streamer is still short of 39 souls. If the number of enemies is less than 39, then capture some ordinary people for me. I didn't come out of seclusion just for some trivial matters of gratitude and grudges. Lian Bai was shaken inwardly and respectfully said, You can rest assured, ancestor. I'll definitely help you gather 39 souls. I'll torture and kill them according to your rules. Lian Wenxin nodded with satisfaction and sighed. You're the right person to be the next patriarch of our Lian family. We must be ruthless if we want to be the most powerful family in the occult sect. So what if we have to turn the world upside down as long as we can become stronger? I understand, said Lian Bai respectfully. 10 minutes later, everyone from the Lian family drove the 6 SUVs towards Green Lake Agricola. Although Xiaoye didn't return, Lian Bai still decided to launch the attack since the 2 ancestors of the Lian family had spoken. Even if he still had some concerns, he still decided to attack. They believed that no conspiracy or trick could compare to absolute power. As long as they were powerful enough, even if the Green Lake Agricola was a huge trap, it wouldn't be a threat to them. At this moment, in the inner hall of the Green Lake Agricola, Li Chang, who had just arrived, was accompanying Boss Huang with a smile on his face. However, Boss Huang was in a bad mood. Perhaps it was because he recalled the beating incident the day before yesterday, but he kept a cold face toward Li Chang. Boss Song, when will your newly developed dishes be delivered? It's been a long time. We can't just wait here, can we? Boss Huang asked with a bit of dissatisfaction upon seeing Song Donglai enter the hall. Just a moment, Boss Huang, said Song Donglai with a smile. Ha, Xiangzi is here? What's wrong? You also know Boss Huang? Li Chang acted according to the plan he discussed with Song Donglai on the phone before and smilingly said, Cousin, Boss Huang will be my big boss in the future, so of course I know him. That's right. My boss is coming here to have a meal, so you must give him at least a 40% discount. That's all for today, said Song Donglai with a bright smile. You are. Boss Huang was surprised. Xiangzi is my cousin, said Song Donglai with a smile. Boss Huang immediately understood. His expression toward Li Chang finally eased up as he nodded and said, Bring the contract to me later, Li Chang. I'll sign it. Li Chang grabbed the briefcase and took out the drafted contract from it. He placed it in front of Boss Huang and smilingly said, I've already prepared it, boss. I'll give it to my original company as long as you sign it. Once I get the money, I'll immediately resign and come to work for you. Boss Huang hesitated for a moment and glanced at Song Donglai. Finally, he signed the contract. Ring, ring, ring. The mobile phone in Song Donglai's pocket suddenly rang. When he took it out and picked it up, his complexion suddenly changed, and he said with a shortness of breath, Xiangzi, hurry up and take Boss Song away from here. Hurry up. I'm going to be in danger soon. Li Chang pretended to be puzzled and asked, What do you mean, cousin? How come you're going to be in danger? We're living in a legal society now. Could it be that someone still wants to find trouble with you? Cut the crap and quickly take Boss Huang away. Song Donglai pretended to be angry and said, Else you won't be able to leave later. Boss Huang got up and asked with a frown, What exactly happened, Boss Song? We've been waiting for so long, yet we haven't eaten anything yet. Song Donglai forced a wry smile and said, I just received the news that my enemies have somehow found this place. I've been hiding here for decades, yet I didn't expect that they would still find me. Hurry up and get out of here. The other party has a very big background. Boss Huang hesitated for a moment before he nodded and said, If that's the case, then we won't bother you anymore. We'll come back to support you another day, Boss Song. Having said that, he then called more than 20 of his men and quickly headed outside. However, just as they came to the parking lot, they saw 6 SUVs roaring toward them. Song Donglai came out with 4 big men. After seeing the 6 SUVs, he shouted, Qiangzi, take Boss Huang and come back quickly. Damn. How did they come so fast? Upon hearing this, Li Chang instantly grabbed Boss Huang's arm and strode toward Song Donglai. The more than 20 thugs looked at each other in dismay. However, they didn't show any fear because they often fought and brawled as if it was their daily routine. Not to mention that they had no enmity with these people. Even if they did, they thought that they didn't need to be afraid since they had so many people on their side. Bam! After the SUVs stopped, Lian Bai strode out of the door. His eyes full of killing intent fell on Song Donglai. He instantly clenched his fists and fiercely shouted, You bastard surnamed Song! I've been looking for you for 21 years and I finally found you today. I'll make you pay 100-fold for killing my younger brother and my clansmen. Song Donglai looked at the more than 20 people who came out of the 6 cars. His expression drastically changed when he saw the 2 ancestors of the Lian family. Following a roar, more than 20 people ran out of the Agricola. At this time he shouted in a deep voice, Lian Bai, you're well aware of what happened in the past. Your younger brother committed all kinds of crimes and disregarded human life. We 3 brothers happened to meet him, so we naturally couldn't just stand by and watch. Hence they deserved to die. Lian Bai strode over and fiercely said, My Lian family doesn't need others to tell us what to do. In short, we can finally put an end to the blood feud between us today. Don't worry, I won't kill you immediately. I'll torture you until you wish you were dead. And then I'll send your soul to my ancestors. Chapter 887. Song Donglai's heart tightened, and a bit of dread flashed in his eyes. The Lian family belonged to the occult sect. Their style of doing things was good on the surface, but they did evil things in the dark. Others might know better than him, but he and his other 2 brothers knew it very well. In the past, he still remembered the members of the Lian family he killed with his own hands. Some of them used demonic weapons with inhumane means. Song Donglai took a deep breath and calmed his nerves. Then he sneered and said, It's hard to say who will live and who will die today. Lian Bai burst into laughter and said, You think we're afraid of you just because you set up a trap here? What about those 2 bastards Ao Wei and Gong Quan? Tell them to get the hell out. Not far away, Gong Quan appeared with more than a dozen of his trusted men. However, he didn't look at the aggressive Lian family, but vigilantly observed the surroundings and sensed the fluctuations in the air. For him, the assassin hiding in the dark was the most dangerous one. Halfway up the mountain, Tan Xiu's eyes were deep and profound as his vision constantly lingered on the Lian family's members. A distance of several hundred meters was nothing to him. The moment the Lian family's members appeared, he suddenly felt the surrounding temperature drop a bit, and a faint death aura came from the Lian family's direction. Ghost clan? Vengeful spirits? Ghost cultivators? Tan Xiu didn't expect that he would find such an interesting thing when he came here to watch the fight on a whim. He was getting more and more curious about what kind of existence Earth was. Not only did he find traces left by immortals, but he also found traces left by deities. But now there was even such a strong death aura. Could it be that ghost cultivators also existed here? Shui Yu and Tan Xiu stood side by side as they watched the 2 sides in the distance. She then asked, Tan Xiu, who do you think is more powerful? The Lian family, answered Tan Xiu. Song Donglai and the rest will definitely die this time if there's no accident. Is it because of the 2 old men of the Lian family? Asked Shui Yu in surprise. I've seen the ancestors of some families in the occult sect. Tan Xiu nodded and said, They are lethargic and have 1 foot in the grave. They were lethargic and had half a foot in the grave, but their strength was extremely terrifying. Almost all of them have already entered the Tao through martial arts. Although they don't have any follow-up cultivation methods, making it very difficult for them to break through to the foundation establishment stage, many of them can compete with foundation establishment experts while still in the qi condensation stage. Are you really not going to help that boss Song? Asked Shuiyu. As a matter of fact, Song Donglai is very talented. Tan Xiu shook his head and said, "It's already very difficult for him to reach the martial Dao Grandmaster realm before the age of 50. This time, he and his two brothers want to use the Blood Python array to fight for an opportunity, so they have to rely on themselves." Shuiyu didn't speak again, but her eyes revealed a pondering look. Tan Xiu turned to look at her and said again, "Do you think I should help him? After all, we can be considered familiar with each other. He respects you very much." Shuiyu nodded. Tan Xiu shook his head and said, "The number of people who respected me in the past was innumerable, and the number of people who begged me for help were like carps crossing the river. I could have saved countless people, but I just watched them die. It's not that I'm hard-hearted, but the heavenly Tao is ruthless. Since I've embarked on this cultivation path of no return, I must rely on myself to fight. Of course, there are also exceptions." "What kind of exceptions?" asked Shuiyu. "I'll help those I care about, even if their cultivation wastes and don't want to easily step into danger," said Tan Xiu with a smile. "I'll provide them with cultivation techniques, cultivation resources, and cultivation experience. Also, I'll guarantee their safety." "I suddenly feel that I'm very lucky," said Shuiyu softly with a smile. "Sometimes luck is also an important factor in success," said Tan Xiu with a smile. Inside Green Lake Agricola, the Lian family's ancestor, Lian Wenxin, slowly walked to Lian Bai's side and stared at the man in front of him, as though he was looking at a dead man. He slowly took out a pitch-black bottle from his cyan robe and gloomily said, "Don't waste your breath. All the enemies here must die today, so don't delay their reincarnation." The long saber in Lian Bai's hand was unsheathed and he fiercely shouted, "Kill! Kill all the enemies here." Tens of meters away, Boss Huang and more than 20 of his men originally had the mentality of watching a good show. Although they were a bit nervous, they didn't have much fear. However, when the Lian family's ancestor spoke, a chill ran through their hearts, and they felt a chill on their backs. Martial artists fought with each other with flashes of blades and shadows of swords, creating a bloody storm. Severed limbs fluttered in the air and blood splashed everywhere. After both sides exchanged blows, Boss Huang and his men felt as though they had fallen into an ice cave, and fear nearly made them scream. Li Chang suddenly grabbed Boss Huang and said in a low voice, "Boss, hurry up and send your men to help my cousin's men. Else, I'm afraid they won't let us go as long as my cousin's men are defeated." Boss Huang turned his head with difficulty, and looked at Li Chang with fear in his eyes. Then he bitterly said, "These people are all martial arts experts. How can we help them? Are we supposed to send them to their deaths? Even if it's 10 of them against one, it'll be a great merit as long as they can hold some of the enemies," said Li Chang hurriedly. "Also, I'm going to take you to hide right away. We'll be easily exposed if there are too many of them." Boss Huang's lips squirmed a few times and he immediately shouted, "All of you, go and help Boss Song's men. Whoever can injure those people will be rewarded with 1 million yuan. And whoever can kill those people will be rewarded with 2 million yuan. Hurry up. As the saying goes, brave men are bound to emerge under heavy rewards." Those hoodlums were Boss Huang's hired thugs. They usually helped him do some shady business deals, and were given tens of thousands of yuan each time, which was not a small amount. Their eyes immediately lit up upon hearing Boss Huang's words. Although they were aware that they were no match for those people, they still wisely chose to team up and fight together. Song Donglai's men were several times more than the Lian family's men. Though their strength was much weaker than the Lian family's, their numbers could barely make up for their individual combat strength. Those hoodlums had already made up their minds. More than 20 of them were divided into 3 groups, and quickly surrounded the 3 experts of the Lian family. Puff, puff, puff. Amidst the fluctuation in the air, Xiaoya silently appeared next to the scar-faced man and stabbed his sharp dagger like a viper into the scar-faced man's abdomen. He pulled the dagger out in a flash and killed 3 more hoodlums with lightning speed. Gunshots. Amidst the chaotic fighting scene, the Lien family's experts, who had the upper hand, suddenly had their complexions slightly change as they could clearly hear the slight gunshots. In particular, several members of the Lien family who were proficient in firearms realized that it was not an ordinary pistol, but a powerful sniper rifle. Xiaoya, deal with the gunman. Lien Bai slashed an enemy with his saber, turned his head and glanced around as he roared. Cruor Python. Ao Wei, who had never shown himself, suddenly appeared from the direction of the small lake. Behind him, 4 strong men carrying a 2-meter-tall and 2-meter-wide fine steel cage quickly rushed toward the fighting crowd. As he approached the fighting crowd, Ao Wei roared and slashed the chains outside the cage with his saber, opening the cage door. Whoosh! A 3-meter-long crimson Cruor python shot out of the cage. As it opened its cold fangs and shot behind a Lien family member, its sharp fangs instantly bit the left side of the person's neck. Aya! A shrill scream came out of the Lien family member's mouth. However, the Cruor python didn't stay for long, and pounced toward another Lien family member. Beast! Lien Wentian, the Lien family's ancestor, had just killed several of Song Donglai's men. He found that the Cruor python had just appeared and killed 2 Lien family members. He immediately brandished his longsword, and rushed toward the Cruor python lightning fast. He had encountered such a ferocious beast before, so he didn't fear it at all. The fight between the Cruor python and Lien Wentian caused no one else to be there. The Cruor python was very strong, stronger than all the fierce beasts Lien Wentian had ever killed. At the moment when man and beast were fighting fiercely, Lien Wenxin, who was not far away, finally opened the black bottle in his hand after killing more than a dozen people, and instantly threw it into the air. Soul Suppressor Devour. Lien Wenxin soared into the air. As his roar spread in all directions, the black bottle emitted a gray weapon. At the same time, a palm-sized 9 fetuses of 100 ghost streamer instantly emerged from the black bottle, and unfolded in the whistling wind, growing bigger and bigger. Halfway up the mountain, Tanxio's complexion drastically changed. His pupils shrunk and disbelief burst out from his eyes. The thick death chi made him instantly exhorted the unfurled 9 fetuses of 100 ghost streamer. A ghost artifact? Tanxio easily recognized the 9 fetuses of 100 ghost streamer, because it exuded an extremely strong ghost chi and the power of wronged souls. What's a ghost artifact? Asked Shuiyu confused. Killing intent flashed in Tanxio's eyes as he said in a deep voice. It's a ghost artifact that uses human souls to go through countless cruel tortures and eventually turn them into wronged souls. Then the ghost artifact absorbs them and turns them into a very powerful weapon. This ghost streamer has devoured at least hundreds of human souls. In fact, all of them were tortured to death and their souls were constantly tortured. So evil? Exclaimed Shuiyu. Isn't this the legendary fiend? Tanxio nodded and said, That's right. There's not much difference between a ghost artifact and a demonic artifact. They're just 2 forms of power, and both are evil things. This Lien family is a occult family on the surface, but I didn't expect that they actually have someone who can refine a ghost artifact. It's obvious that this family is not a good thing. Then, what should we do? Asked Shuiyu quickly. What else can we do? Tanxio coldly snorted. I must figure out whether this ghost artifact was personally refined by the Lien family, or, damn it, I can confirm that it was refined by the Lien family. All the dead souls, even those of the Lien family, have been sucked into this ghost artifact. Having said that, Tanxio's figure instantly swooped down. Chapter 888. The fierce battle in Green Lake Agricola wasn't too bad for the Lien family. Only 4 or 5 people were killed and only 5 or 6 were injured. But the subordinates of Song Donglai, Ao Wei, and Gong Quan suffered heavy losses. Even if they had the advantage in numbers, their overall strength was too weak. Furthermore, Boss Huang's more than 20 thugs were just ordinary people without much combat power. Even though they were divided into 3 groups, they were still crazily slaughtered by the 3 experts of the Lien family. Except for the scar-faced big man, the others were slaughtered in just a few minutes. Hiss! The Kruer python's head was badly battered by Lian Wentian and Lian Wenqin's joint attack. Its scarlet body rolled on the ground as it attempted to escape into the lake. However, the black bottle suspended in midair continuously released a grayish-black mist with a strong suction force. Shrouded by the thin grayish-black mist, the souls of the slain humans were sucked out of their corpses and swallowed into the 9 fetuses of 100 ghosts streamer. As the patriarch of the Lian family, Lian Bai's cultivation had yet to break through to a new realm, but he was still a perfected martial Dao grandmaster with formidable strength. A man wearing a bronze mask and wielding a broad and thick long saber was slashed back by him and shouted, "Who are you? Your strength is not below Song Donglai, Aowei and Gong Quan. You're definitely not their subordinate. You can ask the King of Hell if you die." Han Sen's black training suit rustled as his crazy killing intent locked onto Lian Bai. The two men's strength was evenly matched, and after a short fight, they both felt their blood and chi churning. "You're just hiding your head and hiding your tail, huh?" Lian Bai grinned hideously. "Since you're courting death, then don't blame me for being ruthless." With that said, Lian Bai brandished his saber with his right hand and quickly condensed a fireball with his left hand. Following his powerful attack, the fireball turned into a blazing flame ribbon that whipped toward Han Sr., an ability user? Han Sen's expression drastically changed. Just as he was about to face the attack in a hurry, the air behind him rippled and a sharp dagger suddenly pierced his back. God damn it. Not even in his wildest dreams did Han Sen expect that the assassin hiding in the dark would launch a sneak attack on him at this moment. His eyes were filled with despair, but there was even more madness. The moment the dagger was about to crush his heart, he suddenly pounced towards the source of the fluctuation in the air. "If you want me to die, then die with me." As soon as Xiaoya's body appeared in the air, Han Sen was already in front of him. Xiaoya swung his longsword, leaving bloody wounds all over his body. Little Ye's cultivation had not even reached the martial Dao Grandmaster realm. He was an expert in assassination, so he had no time to dodge an attack from a martial Dao Grandmaster realm powerhouse. "Save me." At this moment, he could only pin his hopes on Lian Bai. If Lian Bai could kill Han Sen as quickly as possible, then he would have a chance of survival. Unfortunately, Han Sen's heart had been crushed, and he was doomed to die. Therefore, he did not pay attention to Lian Bai, who was attacking him from behind. At the moment when the longsword in his hand chopped off Xiaoya's head, a very deep wound of 20 or 30 centimeters was torn on his back. Puffed! Flaming ribbons pierced Han Sen's body, causing his vitality to quickly fade away. After spurting out a mouthful of blood, he turned his head with difficulty to look at Lian Bai, giving him a murderous look. "Unfortunately, I can't do anything about it. You'll die with me." Lian Bai was also seething with killing intent. Xiaoya's death was like cutting off his right arm, making him feel distressed and suffocated. It must be noted that Xiaoya was still very young. Even if he had yet to break through to the martial Dao Grandmaster realm, he would probably reach it soon in the future. He was a martial Dao genius. Lian Bai wished he could hack Han Sen into 1,000 pieces and chop him into pieces. However, he did not continue to attack and just stood a few meters away from Han Sen, saying with a heavy voice, "You wanna die? Didn't you see the thing my ancestor took out? Let me tell you, that's the 9 fetuses of 100 ghost streamer. It can devour human souls and transform them into resentful spirits that will forever be trapped in the streamer. Just wait and see. You'll struggle in endless pain in the future. When the streamer is destroyed one day, your soul will eventually scatter and vanish." A disdainful look appeared on Han Sen's pale face. He didn't believe that ghosts and monsters existed in this world. Souls and resentful spirits were simply a joke. Humph! A deep and cold snort sounded. Han Sen's body slightly trembled, and a horrified look appeared on his face. Even though he was grateful that his vitality was rapidly fading away, he could still clearly see the fear on Lian Bai's face. He could also clearly see that the arrogant and unruly Lian Bai was now being strangled by a young man from behind at this moment. Tang Xiu glanced around indifferently before his eyes landed on Han Sen, and lightly said, "He's right. Your soul would have been imprisoned if I hadn't intervened. and you would have suffered the cruelest torture day and night, until your consciousness completely disappears and you turn into a mass of resentful energy, a resentful spirit. Once you reach this point, you'll never be able to reincarnate again. It's like your soul will scatter and vanish in a sense. Who are you? Lian Bai, whose neck was being strangled by Tan Xiao, shouted with a fearful look on his face. Are you the Lian family's patriarch? Asked Tan Xiao coldly. That's right, I'm the Lian family's patriarch, said Lian Bai hurriedly. Let me go, else you'll be going against my family. My family's 2 ancestors are here, and they're very powerful. 2 ants who have reached the qi refining stage can actually be called powerful? Tan Xiao sneered. You're just a frog looking at the sky from the bottom of a well. Your knowledge and experience are shallow. While speaking, 2 experts of the Lian family flashed over lightning fast. They saw that Tan Xiao didn't turn around and slashed the long sabers in their hands at Tan Xiao's back. Die. Tan Xiao moved lightning fast and appeared 2 meters away out of thin air. With a thought, dozens of electric currents appeared out of thin air and shot the 2 men's vital points like sharp arrows, directly killing them. Caught by Tan Xiao, Lian Bai could only watch helplessly as the 2 experts of his family died tragically. His heart felt like it had fallen into an ice cave, and his fear turned more intense. He was perfectly aware of the strength of these 2 family experts. Even if they hadn't broken through to the martial arts grandmaster realm, they were not far from it. Yet, the other party used an electric ability to easily kill them. Such power was definitely 10 times more powerful than the fire attribute ability he could control. Stop. Tan Xiao looked at the 2 Lian family's ancestors who were besieging the Kruer python, and then looked around and shouted. The rolling sound waves were like an endless tide, spreading out in all directions. 100 meters away, Song Donglai and Ao Wei were struggling to resist the siege of 4 experts of the Lian family. Both of them were already stained with blood. On the ground nearby, Gong Quan had been killed and no longer had any signs of life. What's going on? Patriarch. Who's that? More than a dozen experts of the Lian family gave up on attacking and quickly gathered together, looking at Tan Xiao as though they were facing a formidable enemy. They were shaken because their patriarch, Lian Bai, was unexpectedly captured by the other party. Lian Wentian furrowed his brows and shouted in a deep voice, Wenqin, I'll leave this Kruer python to you. After that, he instantly dashed toward Tan Xiao and stopped a dozen meters away from Tan Xiao, saying in a deep voice, Let's talk about the conditions. Tan Xiao shot a grim look at Lian Wentian and indifferently said, capture that old geezer. Bring me that Kruer python as well. Understood. Mo, who had followed Tan Xiao from halfway down the hillside, dashed toward Lian Wenqin lightning fast and arrived in front of him nearly in an instant. The latter's complexion drastically changed as he fiercely punched his abdomen. As he flew backward, Mo followed him like a shadow and instantly mimicked Tan Xiao's move, grabbing the back of Lian Wenqin's neck. Get down! A straight punch without any technique bombarded the Kruer python's body once again. Along with the Kruer python's miserable howl, Mo fiercely kicked the Kruer python tens of meters away and smashed it to the ground more than 20 meters away from Tan Xiao. It struggled and screamed, yet it couldn't move again. Domineering. Powerful. The strength that Mo displayed caused everyone present to suck in a breath of cold air. Especially the people of the Lian family. Their eyes were as big as copper bells as they subconsciously took a step back in shock. Mr. Tang. At this time, Song Donglai and Ao Wei were the happiest. Both of them had found out that Han Sen was seriously injured, and it seemed that he wouldn't be able to live. They thought that they would die here today, but they didn't expect that Tan Xiao would suddenly take action. Tan Xiao nodded in response. His left hand constantly cast seals, and the 9 fetuses of 100 ghost streamer, suspended in the air, was forcibly pulled over and grabbed by Tan Xiao. Are you the one who refined this thing? Lian Wentian was also scared at the moment. He thought that he and his brother, Lian Wenqin, had cultivated for more than 100 years and their strength had reached the pinnacle. Never did he expect that a plain-looking middle-aged man could easily capture Lian Wenqin. Who the hell are you? Lien Wentian didn't answer Tan Xiao and asked in a deep voice as though he was facing a formidable enemy. Tan Xiao sealed Lien Bai's acupoints and threw him to the ground like a dead dog. Then he indifferently said, "It doesn't matter who I am. What's important is whether this thing was refined by you or not." Lien Wentian took a deep breath and said, "That's right. We refined it." Tan Xiao coldly snorted and said, "Humph. You Liens deserve to die for refining such a sinister ghost artifact." His voice faded away. Jin Shi, who was standing next to Tan Xiao, instantly moved and punched Lien Bai, who was lying on the ground, to death. Then he glared at Lien Wentian and Lien Wenxin with a murderous look. Lien Wentian's pupils shrunk and he involuntarily exclaimed, "You dare to kill the current patriarch of my family? Do you really want to become my family's mortal enemy?" "Humph." Tan Xiao coldly snorted and said, "Humph. Do you want to become my enemy?" Chapter 889. Tan Xiao had once been able to ascend to the peak of the immortal world and become a supreme figure in the immortal world, so he naturally wouldn't care about the lives of a few people. But regardless of whether it was in his previous life or this one, he was extremely disgusted by massacring ordinary people or the unscrupulous killing of the weak. Demons. That was what the immortal world called such people, and countless righteous people would kill them without hesitation. In order to refine the 9 fetuses of 100 Ghost Streamer, the Lien family had to kill countless people. If they were only killing enemies, it would not matter. However, in the current situation, they wanted to kill all the people in Green Lake Agricola, extract everyone's soul, and finally turn them into resentful spirits. This was definitely something that only demons could do. Looking at Lien Wentian's angry expression, Tan Xiao coldly snorted and said, "Humph, I want to know if your Lien family participated in the refining of ghost artifacts?" Lien Wentian angrily said, "I don't know what you're talking about, but if you're talking about the 9 fetuses of 100 Ghost Streamer, I can tell you that the one in your hand is only one of them. There are a total of 99 fetuses of 100 Ghost Streamers, and they are controlled by the 9 strongest members of the Lien family. If you dare to make an enemy of my Lien family, you will have to face the wrath of even more experts of my Lien family." 9. Tan Xiao's pupils shrunk and his murderous aura instantly soared. A divine sword instantly appeared in his hand, and he slashed it like a meteor, directly cleaving Lien Wentian into 2 halves. He then shouted, "Kill all the people of the Liens present." "Yes." Moao Jin Shi Shuesha and He Xiong instantly launched an attack. Their strength was dozens of times stronger than the Lien family's members. They were like tigers entering a flock of sheep. Under the horrified eyes of Song Donglai, Ao Wei, and the others, all the Lien family's members were killed in just half a minute. Dozens of meters away, Boss Huang and Li Chang were hiding at the window in the corner of the building. When Boss Huang saw Tan Xiao, he glared at him with hatred. "My God! How is that possible?" Boss Huang's body trembled as fear gnawed at his heart like a venomous snake. Never in his wildest dreams would he have imagined that the enemy he had brought with him in such a threatening manner would be so terrifying. That person and those people he brought with him, how could they be normal people? They were simply a group of killing gods. Li Chang squinted his eyes. Although he was also shocked by the massacre today and the terrifying strength of Tan Xiao and Tan Xiao's men, he did not forget his mission. After noticing the fear on Boss Huang's face, he immediately grabbed his arm and comforted him softly. "Don't worry, boss. No matter what happens, I will protect you." Boss Huang's lips squirmed a few times before he lowered his voice and shouted, "You want to protect me? Why are you protecting me? Do you think you can defeat those killing gods? I have a grudge against that bastard who killed people." Li Chang deliberately showed a frightened look and said with a trembling voice, What did you say? Do you have a grudge against Tan Xiao? This is bad, this is bad. He is a murderous demon." Many people knew that although he was called the young divine doctor by the people of the country, he was also an executioner who hated evil. Boss, how did you offend him?" "Little miracle doctor?" Boss Huang stared blankly and suddenly slumped to the floor. He wanted to cry but had no tears. "It's over, it's all over." No wonder I felt that he was a bit familiar the first time I saw him. The young divine doctor, Tan Xiao. Damn it. How did I provoke the magnificent Tang Corporation's big boss, Tan Xiao? There was no medicine for regret in this world. Otherwise, Boss Huang was willing to buy a medicine for regret even if he had to spend all his assets. He knew about Tan Xiao because he had a distant relative in Shuangqing Province's Star City. It used to be a big and famous family in Star City. It was a family that Tan Xiao had contacted many forces and eventually annihilated. Li Chang did not know about this situation. He recalled Tan Xiao's exhortation. His expression kept changing and his grip on Boss Huang's arm tightened. He firmly said, "I've chosen to be your man, boss. I'm not afraid even if the other party is a homicidal maniac. Even if I have to die today, I'll die in front of you." Boss Huang turned his head in disbelief and saw the firm expression on his face. Suddenly he felt warm inside and was moved. "Thank you." Li Chang shook his head and said, "Maybe things haven't reached the worst yet, boss. This Green Lake Agricola is owned by my cousin, and you've seen the situation outside. My cousin and the Lien family are enemies, and Tan Xiao led his men to kill them all. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. With my cousin here, I'm sure Tan Xiao will give my cousin some face." Boss Huang was as though he saw a life-saving straw. He hurriedly grabbed Li Chang's arm and said with a hurried breath, "Li Chang, brother Chang. Big brother can leave this place alive today, and it's all up to you. You can rest assured that I won't forget this kindness. You'll follow me in the future and I'll guarantee you prosperity and wealth." Li Chang heavily nodded and said, "Of course I chose to follow you, boss. I'm ready to sell my life to you. I may not have a bad life all these years, but I've also tasted the fickleness of human nature. No one cares about me because of my ability. Even when I worked in several companies before, I was ostracized by my peers because I was outstanding. I was even threatened by the relatives of the boss, who eventually drove me away. Only you took a fancy to my ability. Not only did you sign a contract with me so that I could earn a sum of money to treat my wife, but you also let me work in your company. This trust and kindness is something that I, Li Chang, will never forget." The way Boss Huang looked at Li Chang changed. He finally understood why Li Chang didn't give up on him even at such a dangerous time. It turned out that it was his own value that made Li Chang feel grateful to him by a freak combination of factors. This little brother was truly a man who valued friendship and righteousness. In the courtyard, Song Donglai and Ao Wei came to the front of Tan Xiao. With excitement in his eyes, Song Donglai respectfully said, "Thank you, Mr. Tang." "You don't need to thank me." Tan Xiao shook his head. The Lien family refined the 9 fetuses of 100 ghost streamer with extremely cruel means. It's my duty to kill them for such devilish acts. I'll also kill you myself if I find out that you've also done evil deeds in the future. Mr. Tang is kind-hearted, so we'll never do such despicable things, said Song Donglai sincerely. If it wasn't for your intervention today, I'm afraid that all of us would have been killed by the Lien family's experts. We'll always keep this kindness in mind. Please don't hesitate to ask us if you need our help in the future. Where's the Lien family's land? Asked Tan Xiao with a smile. Ning City, Haiqing Province, answered Song Donglai. Tan Xiao nodded in response. He then flipped his hand and took out a cultivation manual. After throwing it to Song Donglai, he said, "Tell me how many of you want to cultivate?" Song Donglai stared blankly for a moment. He was surprised to see Tan Xiao take out a manual like a magic trick. However, when he opened the manual and looked at it, a look of ecstasy immediately appeared in his eyes as he said, "For 2. Tan Xiao turned his head to look around and asked, "2 died?" The joy on Song Donglai's face faded after hearing it, and was replaced with a bit of pain. He nodded and said, "Gong Quan is dead, so I'm afraid that Han Sun, the one we invited, won't be able to live either." Tan Xiao looked at Han Sun, whose body was on the verge of collapsing but never fell. Then he suddenly asked, "If you're given a chance to live, will you say goodbye to your past?" Han Sun felt very dizzy at this time, but he was still conscious and tried his best to listen to Tan Xiao's words. His character was neither good nor evil, and he always behaved according to his mood. Therefore, he didn't like Tan Xiao's good-natured character. I cough. I only have tomorrow, no past. Tan Xiao squinted his eyes and looked at Song Donglai, asking, what does he mean by that? Song Donglai forced a wry smile and said, Brother Han is a traitor of the Han family, an anomaly of the family. He was expelled by the Han family many years ago. Ao Wei told me that he has always been a loner. Tan Xiao suddenly understood. His figure flashed and appeared in front of Han. Senator. A jade bottle appeared in his hand as he poured out a holy healing pill from it and stuffed it into Han Sen's mouth, saying, if I'm not mistaken, your heart has been pierced and the injuries on your body are also very serious. But I'll give you your life, and your life belongs to me from now on. A sneer appeared on Han Sen's face. He was well aware of his situation. His heart had been pierced, and even if BNK or Hua Tuo were to be reborn, none of them would be able to save him. Therefore, Tan Xiao's words were simply, what? The sneer on Han Sen's face froze. The holy healing pill had only been in his mouth for a few seconds before it turned into a torrent that flowed down his throat and into his chest, abdomen, and finally turned into countless scalding hot streams that swept through his whole body. Sit cross-legged and circulate your true qi according to your previous cultivation method, said Tan Xiao in a deep voice. Han Sen's body trembled, and he sat cross-legged without hesitation. Tan Xiao shifted to Song Donglai and lightly said, Gong Quan is dead, so only you and Ao Wei need this cultivation art. Remember my words, after memorizing the contents of this cultivation method, immediately burn it. You too can cultivate it, but you can't teach it to anyone without my permission. Else, I can bestow power to you, but I can also take it back. As for what I need you to do, we'll talk about it later. Song Donglai and Ao Wei exchanged glances and respectfully said, you can rest assured that we'll never teach it to anyone else. Tan Xiao nodded and waved to Shuiyu, who had already come down from the mountain, and was standing tens of meters away. Then he said, the matter here is over and the enmity between you and the Lians has been resolved. Cultivate well in the future. I hope you can become stronger in the future. Song Donglai hesitated and said, Mr. Tang, so many people of the Lians died here today. Even their patriarch and 2 ancestors have died. The enmity between us and the Lians has probably deepened. I believe it won't be long before they. Chapter 890. Inwardly, Tan Xiao had already sentenced the Lian family to death, but he didn't know much about this family. After quietly pondering for a moment, he said, can you investigate the Lian family clearly if I ask you to help me investigate them? How long will it take? Song Donglai and Ao Wei exchanged dismayed glances. They had a vague feeling that Tan Xiao wanted to move against the Lian family. This feeling caused the two of them to immediately reveal expressions of pleasant surprise. We can give you all the information about the Lian family in 3 days at most, said Song Donglai. That's right. 3 days is enough. Ao Wei nodded. The 3 of us have been guarding against the Lian family all these years and secretly collected a lot of information about them. However, we never expected that the Lian family would actually have a hidden force. How did the ancestors of the Lian family survive until now? Tan Xiao thought for a while and then said, well, I'll give you 3 days. I want to see the detailed information about the Lian family within 3 days. Keep in mind that the more detailed the information you give me, the more thoroughly the Lian family will be eradicated. You're all enemies of the Lian family, so you don't want to leave any worries behind, do you? No problem, replied Song Donglai in a deep voice. Tang Xiao nodded in response. As he was about to leave, he suddenly recalled something and said, I need Boss Huang to trust Li Chang completely. He must even regard Li Chang as his benefactor and confidant. Tell me, how should I cooperate with him? Asked Song Donglai with a strange expression. I'll scare him. You act according to the circumstances, said Tan Xiao with a faint smile. All right. Although Song Donglai wanted to seize the time to use the blood python array to break through his cultivation, he still agreed to Tan Xiao's request. Tan Xiao turned around and looked at the direction where Li Chang and Boss Huang were hiding. Then he shouted, Fatty Huang, get the fuck out here if you're still alive. Else, I'll tear you to pieces. In the distance, Boss Huang shuddered violently. He didn't expect that Tan Xiao would hold a grudge, and even knew that he was hiding here. In a flash, he reached out to grab Li Chang and begged, "Brother Qiangzi, you have to let your cousin save me. As long as you can save me, you will be my greatest benefactor in this life." Li Chang secretly laughed in his heart, but his face remained calm as he said, "Boss, since you regard me as a brother, then I will naturally save you. Risking my life for my brother is my bottom line. But are we really going out? You don't want to go out? If we don't take the initiative to go out, once he finds us, I'm afraid we really won't have any hope of surviving." Saying, he slowly walked out of the corner and appeared in Tan Xiu's line of sight. With a face full of fear, he trotted to Tan Xiu's front, bowed, and said with a smile, "Tang. Hello, Brother Tang. I'm Huang Bingren, the one you've subdued before. Alas, I didn't know it was you before, so I said some ungrateful words in front of you out of vanity. You're a magnanimous man, so please don't stoop to the level of a nobody like me." Tan Xiu laughed inwardly, but his face was as cold as frost. He coldly snorted and said, "Now you know fear? Now you know fear? You brought those hoodlums to follow me here. Are you here to retaliate?" No. We really don't have any intention to retaliate against you," said Boss Huang while gasping. "We came here mainly to help Boss Song deal with the enemies. Am I right, Boss Song?" Li Chang also quickly said, "Cousin, you have to say some good words for my boss. We really came here to help you." Song Donglai hesitated for a moment before he let out a dry smile and said, "About this, they did come to help me, Mr. Tang. It's just that I didn't expect that the Lien family would send so many powerful enemies, causing Boss Huang's men to be killed except for that scar-faced man." Tan Xiu's expression eased a lot, but he still said, "Those who have offended me deserve to die. Even if you didn't come here to retaliate against me, I'll still kill you if I bump into you. In any case, I've already killed a lot of people today, so it doesn't matter if you die or not. But you can rest assured that someone will burn Joss paper money for you on this day next year." Plop, Boss Huang's complexion drastically changed. He instantly knelt on the floor and begged, "Brother Tang, Ancestor Tang, please spare me. I have an 80-year-old mother, and a daughter who hasn't married yet. Please be kind and spare my lowly life. I promise that I'll definitely worship you as a bodhisattva in the future. I'll go through water and tread on fire to do whatever you want me to do. You deserve to die." Tan Xiu raised the long sword in his hand and was about to slash down. Li Chang instantly stood in front of Boss Huang and begged, "Sir Tang, please spare my boss. He's really a good man, but he loves to save face. He didn't know your identity before, so he didn't mean to offend you. Please spare him this time for the sake of my cousin. Otherwise, you can kill me as well." Song Donglai's complexion drastically changed. He strode toward Li Chang and fiercely slapped his face and cursed, "You bastard! What the hell are you talking about?" Having said that, he turned to look at Tan Xiu and said with an obsequious smile, "Mr. Tang, this is my cousin. He's young and insensible, so please don't stoop to his level. Can you be magnanimous and spare them this once for my sake? I should give you face by right, but..." Tan Xiu sneered. "Mr. Tang, Qiangzi is my closest cousin. My aunt will be very sad if he's gone," said Song Donglai decisively. 10 million. I'm willing to pay 10 million to save his life." Boss Huang hurriedly shouted, "Me too. My life too. I'll also pay 10 million. Tan Xiu squinted his eyes and coldly snorted. "Do you think I, Tan Xiu, care about 20 million? Humph. Let alone 20 million, I don't care even if it's 200 million. However, this cousin of yours is not bad. He's even willing to risk his life for his boss. Such a person is worth making friends with. All right, for his sake, I'll let this matter go." Boss Huang looked ecstatic and heavily kowtowed to Tan Xiu 3 times. Then he gratefully said, "Thank you for sparing my life, Mr. Tang. You're my idol in my heart, and I'll never disrespect you again in the future." Tan Xiu rolled his eyes and lightly said, "I won't kill you, but you can't escape from the punishment. You brought so many people here today, so take out 10 million and give it to their families as a pension. Remember to control your little brother well in the future, else I don't mind turning you into a living eunuch first, and then feeding you to the dogs." Yes, yes, yes. Cold sweat drenched Boss Huang's back as he repeatedly nodded like a chicken. After a short while, Tan Xiao left Green Lake Agricola. As the off-road Mercedes-Benz drove out of the gate, Tan Xiao immediately asked Mo Ao to book a plane ticket to Ning City in Haiqing Province. In the back seat, Tan Xiao fiddled with the 9 fetuses of 100 Ghosts streamer. After studying it, he found that there were more than 450 souls in the streamer, and nearly half of them had been refined into vengeful spirits without consciousness. Unless Tan Xiao could become a supreme in the immortal world again, even a perfected golden immortal wouldn't be able to restore these vengeful spirits. Additionally, the 9 fetuses of 100 ghost streamers' refinement was very crude. Although there were 2 layers of arrays inside, they were very low-level arrays that he could completely master after studying them. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. The sins of the past life will be repaid in the next life, and the next life will be reborn. The 6 paths of reincarnation are the cycles of karma. I'm fated to encounter this matter today, so I can't just stand by and watch. Go. Reincarnate as soon as possible. I hope you'll be luckier in your next life. Tan Xiao's fingers moved, and a trace of heaven and earth nether power condensed at his fingertips. In just an instant, hundreds of souls swarmed toward that trace of nether power. Just before they were sucked in by the nether power, all the souls turned around and bowed to Tan Xiao. The remaining vengeful spirits. Tan Xiao pondered for a moment and finally decided to let them return to this world. The rise and fall of karma had come to an end, so there was no need to be trapped in the 9 fetuses of 100 ghost streamer, and there was no need to stay in the world as vengeful spirits to harm others. Just as he pulled nearly 200 vengeful spirits out of the 9 fetuses of 100 ghost streamer, his body suddenly shook. The countless planets in his dantian vibrated violently, the most obvious being the planet the size of a ping-pong ball. It emitted a strong suction force, directly sucking those vengeful spirits into Tan Xiao's dantian, and then devouring them all. Buzz! Tan Xiao could clearly see that the planet, which was originally the size of a ping-pong ball, had actually grown a size larger. The vibration only lasted for more than 10 seconds before it returned to calmness. What's going on? Tan Xiao looked at the completely dimmed 9 fetuses of 100 ghost streamer in his hand, and observed the planet in his dantian. It took him a long while to sober up from the shock. Shuiyu, who was sitting next to Tan Xiao, looked at Tan Xiao with a dumbfounded expression. After a while, she couldn't help but pull Tan Xiao's arm and worriedly asked, Are you alright? Tan Xiao turned his head and looked at Shuiyu's worried expression, saying, I'm fine. Still a bit worried, Shuiyu said, I just saw countless wisps of black smoke drilling into your body, so I thought that this 9 fetuses of 100 ghost streamer might be harmful. I'm relieved that you're alright. I don't know what happened, to be honest, said Tan Xiao bitterly. I just pulled those vengeful spirits out of the 9 fetuses of 100 ghost streamer, and they suddenly drilled into my body. I feel that I've become stronger because I've devoured those vengeful spirits without any self-consciousness. It's like, those vengeful spirits are super tonics, miraculous elixirs in the eyes of cultivators. Devoured? Shuiyu was dumbfounded and shocked by Tan Xiao's words. Chapter 891. At Green Lake Agricola. After Boss Huang got up from the ground, he looked at Song Donglai with a grateful expression and repeatedly thanked him. Thank you for helping me today, Boss Huang. I'll always keep this great kindness in mind. If you need my help in the future, please don't hesitate to ask. As long as I can do it, I'm willing to go through mountains of blades and seas of fire. Song Donglai's expression was a bit cold as he shook his head and said, You don't need to thank me. I actually don't know if Tan Xiao will give me face or not. Of course, the most important thing is my cousin. I can tell that Tan Xiao appreciates him very much. If you want to thank someone, thank this cousin of yours. Cousin, Boss Huang treats me as a brother, so I naturally have to regard him as a respectable big brother. Li Chang quickly waved his hand. You don't need to thank me. Feeling warm inside, Boss Huang opened his arms and gave Li Chang a big hug. He then patted Li Chang's back and said, I'll never forget Brother Chang's great kindness to me today. Brother Chang will be my company's sales manager starting today. We brothers will share blessings and misfortunes in the future. He was not stupid. Not to mention that Li Chong had saved his life today. Just the fact that Li Chong was Song Donglai's cousin was enough for him to regard him as a benefactor. Who was Song Donglai? Although he was not as good as Tan Xiao, he was also a hidden and fierce man. Which one of Song Donglai's men today wasn't a martial arts expert? Including himself, whose martial prowess was simply heaven-defying. He was able to establish a relationship with such a fierce man through Li Chong. It would be greatly beneficial for him in the future, if he could make friends with him in the future. Song Donglai nodded with satisfaction and said, "Thank you for taking care of my cousin, Boss Huang. I'll hand him over to you in the future. But don't forget what Mr. Tang told you. Else, I'm afraid the consequences will be very serious if Mr. Tang sends someone to investigate and finds that you didn't do as he said." Boss Huang hurriedly nodded and said, "Definitely. I'll never forget it." Song Donglai waved his hand and said, "All right. You must keep everything that happened here to rot in your stomach. Even if you're drunk or dreaming, you mustn't say a word about what happened today. Else, Mr. Tang doesn't need to do anything. I won't spare you." Yes, yes, yes. Boss Huang and Scarface nodded vigorously. What happened today was beyond their understanding. Even if they were given 100 guts, they would not dare to spread the news. However, the death of more than 20 of his men gave him a headache. It was not a problem for him to take out 10 million yuan, but how was he going to explain it to the families of his subordinates? Li Chong seemed to have seen through Boss Huang's mind, so he lowered his voice and said, "Boss, we can say that we found out that they got into a car accident together, and we can even fake the scene of the accident. The car exploded and burned, and their bodies were charred." Boss Huang's eyes lit up. He gave Li Chong a thumbs up and praised, "That's a great idea. You're really my lucky star, Qiangzi. With you around in the future, I can be at ease about the company's affairs. Work hard. As long as you have the ability, you will be the deputy general manager of our company in the future." Li Chong deliberately revealed a pleasantly surprised expression and nodded heavily. Half an hour later, the bodies of more than 20 of Boss Huang's men were quietly transported out. Fearing that something might go wrong, Song Donglai also sent several capable assistants to help him. By the lake, Song Donglai and Ao Wei were sitting cross-legged, facing the sparkling lake. The severely injured Kruer python weakly lay on the lakeside, looking up at Ao Wei with an expectant look in its eyes. Ao Wei took out a porcelain bottle from his pocket, unplugged the cork, poured out a red pill, and threw it into the Kruer python's mouth. Immediately after, the Kruer python swallowed the red pill. Immediately after, its body suddenly exploded and turned into a blood mist that shrouded Song Donglai and Ao Wei 2 meters away. Activate. The two men exchanged glances and stimulated a very important acupoint in their bodies without hesitation. The blood mist that shrouded a radius of more than 10 meters didn't dissipate with the wind, but kept surging into their bodies. Haiqing Province. Ning City was the provincial capital city of Haiqing Province. It was also the city with the most rapid development and the best economy in the entire province. There were many high-rise buildings and countless shops in the city. Wide roads extended in all directions. South City. The Miao family's manor, which occupied an area of more than 10 acres, was the most mysterious place in the eyes of the people in Ning City. The gate of this place was usually closed and heavily guarded. As the #1 family in Ning City, the Miao family had a very deep heritage and a large number of family members. On the north side of a small artificial lake stood a 3-story European-style villa. In the study room on the second floor of the villa, Miao Wentong was intently reading a stack of documents. For 8 billion. A satisfied look appeared on his dignified face when he saw the final sum. The business this year was very prosperous. The company controlled by the Miao family had a total revenue of 4.8 billion. It had only been half a year, and he was really satisfied with it. "How was it, big brother?" asked a charming woman sitting in front of Miao Wentong with a faint smile after seeing his expression. "Well done, Fengling," said Miao Wentong with satisfaction. "Our Miao family's business is getting better and better, but the pressure will also increase in the future. The courage on your shoulders is very heavy. If you feel that you can't bear it, just tell me and I'll arrange more people to help you. No problem. Miao Fengling shook her head and smilingly said, I have a lot of capable helpers. However, what are you going to do about the internal purchase issue in Star City? Whether it's the magnificent Tang Corporation or the Long Group, they have already started. Miao Wentong pondered for a moment before he shook his head and said, if they want to do the internal purchase, then let them do it. It's already a blessing that we can get the cooperative development rights of the new city, so don't think about making more money after the price increase. I've discussed this matter with the other families, and we've come to the same decision. That's really a pity. Miao Fengling regretfully said, the development and construction of the new city is really great. It's bound to become the largest and most prosperous urban area in Shuangqing province in the future. There will definitely be a lot of powerful people living there in the future. We're really reluctant to waste such a great opportunity. What's there to be reluctant about? Miao Wentong said with a smile. The construction of the new city is only the first phase. There will be a second, third, and fourth phase later. Not doing it this time doesn't mean that we won't do it in the future. As long as we rely on the magnificent Tang Corporation and the Long Group, we'll have a long time to make money in the future. You're right. Miao Fengling nodded. However, I really want to see the general manager of the magnificent Tang Corporation, Kong Xia. That woman is really amazing. The one who's really amazing is not Kong Xia, but her boss Tan Xiao. Miao Wentong shook his head and smilingly said, of course Kong Xia is also very amazing. Of course, Kong Xia is also very powerful. After all, being able to capture Tang Xiao's heart is already a heaven-defying means. Miao Fengling couldn't help laughing and said, second brother, I know that Tan Xiao is amazing. But how can I see such a high and mighty figure? Ring, ring, ring. Miao Wentong's mobile phone on the table rang. When he picked it up and looked at it, a strange expression immediately appeared on his face as he said, sometimes this person is really unbearable. Speak of the devil, and he's calling me. It's Tan Xiao's call. I'll answer it first. After saying that, after pressing the answer button, he smilingly said, Brother Tang, how come you suddenly remembered to call me? Brother Miao, there's something I need to do in Ning City. Are you there? Tan Xiao said. If so, how about having a few drinks? Miao Wentong abruptly got up and excitedly said, you're in Ning City? That's great. Tell me where you are, and I'll pick you up immediately. I just got off the plane and am still at the airport, Tan Xiao said with a smile. Wait for me there. I'll catch up at once, said Miao Wentong without hesitation. Just tell me the place directly, Brother Miao, said Tan Xiao. I'll go there directly. It'll save me some time. Miao Wentong thought for a while and nodded. All right, you go directly to the Miao family in South City. If you take a taxi, just tell the driver directly. There are only a few people in Ning City who don't know where the Miao family is. Wait for me there, said Tan Xiao with a smile. After hanging up, Miao Wentong looked up at his younger sister, Miao Fengling, and excitedly said, Tan Xiao has come to Ning City. Fengling, immediately arrange for the best guest room in our Miao family's manor, and follow me to the gate to greet him. Miao Fengling hurriedly got up and ran outside after replying. Half an hour later, Miao Wentong, along with Miao Fengling and all the core members of the Miao family's manor, appeared at the entrance of the manor. The 6 security guards who were standing guard at the entrance of the villa all revealed a look of shock. While Miao Wentong and the other high-ranking members of the family were not paying attention, the security guards whispered to each other. What happened? Why is there such a big movement in the family today? Not only did most of the high-ranking members of the family come out, but even the patriarch also came outside. It seems like he's waiting for some big shot. It can't be wrong. I'm afraid something big is about to happen to our Miao family. Who the hell is it? To think that it's worthy for our patriarch to personally come out to greet him? Even if it's the leader of our Haiqing province. There's no need to mobilize so many people, no? We'll know later. Time fleeted by. 10 minutes passed by. Yet none of Miao Wentong and the other members of the Miao family became impatient. Instead, several high-ranking members of the Miao family rushed back from the outside and joined the waiting. Such a situation made the Miao family's security guards even more shocked. Big brother, how long will Tan Xiao need? Miao Fengling stood beside Miao Wentong and asked in a low voice. It should take about 50 minutes from the airport to here, said Miao Wentong. More than 40 minutes have passed, so he should be arriving soon. Chapter 892. On the wide and flat road. Two taxis quickly headed toward the Miao family's manor. In the front taxi, the fat driver glanced at Tan Xiao and Shuiyu through the rearview mirror. After turning down the music in the car, he let out a hollow smile and said, "We're about to reach the road outside the Miao family's manor. I'll drop you off at the crossroads. You only need to walk for about a kilometer to reach the gate of the Miao family's manor." Tan Xiao raised his eyelids and said, "Take us directly to the gate of the Miao family's manor." The fat driver forced a smile and said, "It's not that I don't want to take you there, little brother. The road outside the gate of the Miao family's manor is off limits to outside cars. Anyone with a bit of common sense in Ning City knows about this matter." "Are the Miao family bandits?" asked Tan Xiao with a strange expression. "Why are they blocking the road?" The fat driver shook his head and sighed. "Not only are the Miao family not bandits in Ning City, but they're also a very famous philanthropic family. The main reason is that the road was built by the Miao family themselves, and there's only the Miao family in the vicinity. Of course, it's also because of something that happened many years ago." Tan Xiao's interest was piqued and he smilingly asked, "Tell me what's the matter?" "This." The fat driver hesitated. On the front seat, Mo took out a few hundred-yuan bills and put them on the dashboard, saying, "Our boss asked you to speak, so tell him." The fat driver's spirit shook and he smilingly said, "It's not a big deal actually. It's just that the Miao family was robbed many years ago. I remember that the news was that a very precious family heirloom of the Miao family was stolen by the thieves. Since then, the entire manor of the Miao family has been installed with surveillance cameras, and there are many Miao family security guards patrolling the surroundings. Gradually, no one uses the road repaired by the Miao family anymore." Tan Xiao suddenly understood and smilingly said, "Master, just take us directly to the gate of the Miao family's manor. Don't worry, it'll be fine." "Don't trouble me, little brother," said the fat driver helplessly. "In the past, there was also someone who drove a car to the Miao family's gate. He was a taxi driver just like me. As a result, I was beaten up by the Miao family's security guards. Although the Miao family paid a sum of money for my medical expenses and nutrition, don't worry about it." Tan Xiao smiled. "I'll smash their gate if the Miao family's security guards dare to touch you. Haha, I'm just joking. Actually, I'm Miao Wentong's friend. He knew we were coming. I also told him that I would take a taxi to the Miao family's house." The fat driver forced a smile and said, "Please don't joke with me, little brother. Miao Wentong is the head of the Miao family, and the big boss of the Miao group. He's the person with the highest status in the Miao family. You and him. No, don't misunderstand, little brother. I'm not looking down on you. It's just that I drove the car to the entrance of the Miao family's villa. It's not a joke. You just let me go." Tan Xiao's brows raised. After noticing Tan Xiao's expression, Mo, who was sitting on the front seat, instantly grabbed a dagger and put it on the fat driver's neck. Then he coldly said, "My boss told you to drive there, so you drove there. Else, the Miao family security guards don't need to do anything to you. I can kill you myself." The fat driver shivered and hurriedly nodded. Yes. Can you take the dagger away? I'll go." Mo coldly snorted and took back the dagger. The fat driver glanced at Tan Xiao again through the rearview mirror, and secretly despised him. Although he knew that Tan Xiao seemed to have brought several bodyguards with him this time. But what kind of existence was the Miao family? It was the biggest and strongest family in Haiqing province. Did a young man like him really think he had a lot of face? Quickly, he communicated with the taxi driver through the intercom, and drove the car to the east-west road in front of the Miao family's gate. A surprised expression suddenly appeared on the fat driver's face after driving for about a kilometer. He had never seen most of the Miao family's high-ranking members before, but he had seen Miao Wentong countless times on TV and in the newspapers. This is strange. Could it be that my eyes are playing tricks on me? Why do I see the Miao family's patriarch, Miao Wentong? Why is he standing in front of the gate? It seems like he's here to welcome some important people. The fat driver subconsciously turned his head and glanced at Tan Xiao. He was secretly shocked. Could it be that the Miao family's patriarch, Miao Wentong, and the people around him are here to welcome the passengers I'm driving? Creak! The taxi stopped at the Miao family's gate. Miao Wentong, who had been waiting for a long time, strode to the first taxi and quickly opened the back seat's door. He was slightly stunned when he saw a breathtakingly beautiful woman inside. Immediately after, he bent down to look at the woman's side and laughed aloud. You scared me, Brother Tang. I thought I picked up the wrong person. After Shuiyu got off, Tan Xiu also got off from the other side. He smiled at Miao Wentong and walked around the front of the car to give him a big hug. Then he said with a smile, Brother Miao, you don't know the others, but you should know Shuiyu, right? I do, Brother Tang. You're really lucky, said Miao Wentong with a smile. I'd be blind if I didn't know such a great beauty like Miss Shui. Miss Shui. Ah no, I should call her sister-in-law. Shuiyu nodded with a smile. Tan Xiu glanced at the Miao family's gate about a dozen meters away and forced a wry smile. Brother Miao, I wouldn't have greeted you in advance if I knew you would make such a big scene. We're brothers, so there's no need to make such a big scene. You can't blame me for this. Miao Wentong's smile was particularly bright. You can only blame yourself for having such a resounding reputation, Brother Tang. The other Miao family members are all eager to see you. I just told my sister to clean up the guest room. But who knew that everyone would come here after hearing about it? Tan Xiu shook his head with a smile. Suddenly, he seemed to recall something and looked at the dumbfounded and shocked fat driver who got off the driver's seat. He then said with a smile, Brother Miao, let's make it clear that this driver didn't take the initiative to pull us to your gate. It was all who put a dagger on his neck, so he had no choice but to drive here. You have to tell your security guards not to beat him up. Miao Wentong stared blankly and immediately forced a wry smile. Since when did my Miao family have such a fierce reputation that even taxi drivers don't dare to come here? Damn, I've really lost my face in front of Brother Tang. Don't worry, I'll definitely tell him. Tan Xiu let out a faint smile as he looked at the fat driver and said, Master, I was a bit too aggressive before. Please forgive me. The fat driver shuddered violently and shook his head like a rattledrum. He hurriedly said, No, no, no. No need, no need. You're virtuous Miao's honored guest, so you're also our Ning City's honored guest. I can't accept your money. After saying that, he turned around and was about to go back to the car to get the money. You deserve it, Master, said Tan Xiu with a smile. All right, we've arrived, so you can go and do your business. Not far away, many security guards of the Miao family gathered together. They were shocked and speechless when their patriarch, Miao Wentong, personally opened the car door for Tan Xiu. After the exchange between Miao Wentong and Tan Xiu, they could feel that their patriarch seemed to be showing goodwill to the other party. No, it should be said that he was fawning on him. After coming back to their senses, they gathered together and whispered, Who is he? To think that he has such a face to make our patriarch personally open the car door for him? Which great god is this? He looks so young, but why do I feel that he's a bit familiar? I'm afraid I'll wake up laughing in my dreams if the patriarch personally opens the car door for me. This honored guest's background is definitely very powerful. Soon after, under Miao Wentong's introduction, Tan Xiu got to know the core members of the Miao family and entered the Miao family manor under their hospitality. Brother Tang, why do I see one of your men looking injured? Miao Wentong asked in a low voice as he walked side by side with Tan Xiu. Tan Xiu smiled and said, I just received a subordinate. He's indeed injured. What happened? Miao Wentong was confused. I do have an important matter to deal with in Ning City this time, said Tan Xiu with a light smile. His injury is related to my purpose of coming here. Let's go inside first. Miao Wentong immediately nodded. Inside the manor, There was an orderly arrangement of villas. Among them, the Miao family had a VIP building with the highest grade. Miao Wentong, Miao Fengling, Tang Xiu, and Shuiyu were sitting in the living room on the second floor. As refreshments, fruits, and fragrant tea were served, the attendants quickly left. "What's the situation, Brother Tang?" asked Miao Wentong with a smile. Tan Xiu didn't mention the purpose of his visit and asked instead, "Brother Miao, as far as I know, there's an occult family in Ning City, the Lian family, right?" Miao Wentong's expression moved and he nodded. "That's right. The Lian family is indeed in Ning City. Could it be that your visit this time is related to them?" "It's not related to them. I'm here because of them," said Tan Xiu. "Brother Tang, we're all on the same side, so I won't beat around the bush with you. I want to ask you, how much do you know about the Lian family?" Miao Wentong pondered for a moment and then said, "The Lian family is a big family in Ning City with a very deep heritage. To be honest, though my family is known as the #1 family in Haiqing province and even the #1 family in Ning City, there's still a gap between us and the Lian family in terms of heritage. The Lian family has been operating in Ning City for hundreds of years. Outsiders may not know about it, but I'm crystal clear about it. The Lian family is very strange, and even I don't want to provoke them." Two tigers on the same mountain? Tan Xiu squinted his eyes. "I understand what you mean." Miao Wentong sighed. "That's why I find it strange. It's reasonable to say that my family is very powerful in Ning City, and shouldn't coexist with such a powerful family like the Lian family in Ning City. But this kind of thing has happened for hundreds of years. Moreover, we've been getting along well with each other, and no one is hostile to each other." Chapter 893. Interesting. Tan Xiu let out a faint smile upon hearing it. "That's not all." Miao Wentong forced a wry smile. "The Lian family has been very low-key all these years, to the point that it's abnormal. I once tried to send someone to investigate the situation of the Lian family, but guess what happened? The people I sent were like stones sinking into the sea, without any news. In the end, they were never seen alive, and their corpses were never found." "Have you figured out the situation of the Lian family?" asked Tan Xiu calmly. "I've figured it out. I've personally investigated them many times and finally confirmed that the Lian family is very abnormal and evil. Their clan had used some sort of method to ensure that all of their clan's old ancestors were able to survive. The oldest among them was over 260 years old. It's just that the Lian family's ancestors rarely go out, and even rarely leave their ancestral shrine." Tan Xiu nodded and said, "This Lian family is indeed very evil. It can even be described as evil. However, I've killed the Lian family's patriarch, the 2 ancestors, and more than 20 experts of the family. My purpose in coming to Ning City this time is to eradicate this malignant tumor of the Lian family." Miao Wentong's eyes instantly widened with an incredulous look on his face. Miao Fengling at the side was dumbfounded as she looked at Tan Xiu. "The Lian family's patriarch, Lian Bai, is dead?" Miao Wentong gulped and asked in shock, "Brother Tang, what's the situation with the Lian family? How did you have a conflict with them?" "There's no enmity between me and the Lian family." Tan Xiu shook his head. "A few days ago in Chang City, I happened to run into a group of people from the occult sect who have enmity with the Lian family. I originally had no intention to intervene in their enmity, but the Lian family's ancestor suddenly unleashed a ghost artifact to devour the souls of the dead. I learned from the Lian family's ancestor that this ghost artifact is called the 9 fetuses of 100 ghost streamer. Ghost artifact? Devouring souls? There's such an evil weapon in this world?" Miao Wentong was aghast. "I didn't think about it before either." Tan Xiu nodded and said, "But ever since I found the 9 fetuses of 100 ghost streamer, I knew that this kind of ghost artifact does exist. In order to successfully refine a 9 fetters of 100 ghosts banner, it should need to devour 770,490 souls, and then torture these souls for many years, finally causing these souls to become muddle-headed resentful spirits, which are energy filled with resentment. Evil." Miao Wentong's heartbeat sped up, and a furious expression appeared on his face. "Maybe I wouldn't have bickered with them if the Lians killed people who deserved it." Tang Xiu nodded and said, but they even killed ordinary people. I don't know how many innocent people have died tragically in their hands over the years in Yangqi. I think the clansmen you sent to investigate the Lian family's intelligence might have met the same fate. What? Miao Wentong's expression suddenly changed, and he abruptly got up from the sofa. Killing intent flashed in his eyes as he said, "Brother Tang, I finally understand why so many ancestors of the Lian family have survived. I also finally understand why the Lian family is so evil. Don't these bastards fear the cycle of the heavenly Tao and karma? The Lian family has fallen into the demonic path," sneered Tan Xiao. Miao Wentong took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, "Brother Tang, my family wouldn't have easily become enemies with the Lian family if we didn't know about this. But now we must eliminate the Lian family and destroy those evil ghost artifacts. What do you think we should do, Brother Tang? My family will fully cooperate with you." Tan Xiao pondered for a moment and then asked, "How many cultivators does the Miao family have?" "Only me," answered Miao Wentong with a forced smile. "You were already a cultivator when we first met," said Tan Xiao with a puzzled expression. "Why are you the only cultivator in the Miao family until now? Why don't you teach them cultivation arts?" "It's a rule set by our ancestors that only one person can cultivate in the Miao family," said Miao Wentong. "That person is the patriarch of the Miao family. Furthermore, the main reason is that we're worried that the Miao family will have an internal power struggle, and the brothers will kill each other." Tan Xiao suddenly understood and nodded. "Your current cultivation is high enough, and there's still a lot of room for improvement in the future. If you can, you should break this rule. The Miao family is good, especially with you overseeing it. I'm sure there won't be any big trouble in the future. Brother Tang, when you taught me a more profound cultivation art, you said that I'm not allowed to teach it to others." "This," said Miao Wentong hesitantly. "I didn't know the nature of your Miao family before, so I naturally didn't want a large number of cultivators to appear," said Tan Xiao. "I've changed my mind now, but my original intention is still the same. You can teach it to your Miao family's members with good aptitude and character, but not too many. You must know that you'll need a huge amount of cultivation resources when your cultivation reaches a certain level in the future. I'm afraid it'll be difficult for your Miao family to support 10 cultivators with profound cultivation with the current wealth you have." Miao Wentong's expression slightly changed. He pondered for a while and then said, "Since you said so, then I'll choose some good members of your family later and teach them cultivation arts. I can change the rules left by our ancestors, but I'll also make a new rule. The number of cultivators in my Miao family must not exceed 10. How about we go to the Lian family tonight?" Tan Xiao nodded approvingly. "Are we going to attack the Lian family directly?" asked Miao Wentong with a moved expression. "Know the enemy and know yourself, and you'll be victorious in every battle." Tan Xiao shook his head. "I may have absolute confidence in myself, but there have been many people in this world who have failed miserably. Hence, we're just going to investigate in secret tonight and figure out the Lian family's real strength before we act." Miao Wentong sighed and said, "Brother Tang, your character is simply terrifying." Miao Wentong sighed. "If I had your terrifying strength and so many powerhouses as your subordinates, I'm afraid I would have long become unbridled. No problem. Let's go to the Lian family tonight." "It's better to be safe than sorry," said Tan Xiao with a smile. "Nowadays, society is peaceful and flourishing, and the risk factor is very small. But if you go to another place one day in the future where cultivators are everywhere and powerhouses are as numerous as the clouds, I'm afraid you'll die in a few days if you're not careful." "Where is that place?" asked Miao Wentong. "I can't tell you now," Tan Xiao waved and said. "Even if I tell you, it won't bring you any benefits. Just cultivate well. If you become strong enough to surpass the nascent soul stage one day in the future, I can tell you and even give you a huge opportunity." "All right." Miao Wentong was shocked inwardly and nodded excitedly. In the early hours of the morning, Tan Xiao and Miao Wentong quietly left the Miao family manor. As for Mo Ao, Shuiyu, and the others, they were all left by Tan Xiao in the Miao family manor. This time, he only went there to investigate some intelligence, so he didn't want to bring too many people. At the Lien family's place, it occupied an area larger than the Miao family's. However, it was not in Ning City, but in the northwest of Ning City near the Qilian Mountains. Apart from the wide and flat road to the south of the Lien family manor, as well as a village a few kilometers away, the other three sides were surrounded by dense woods. In the dim light of the night, Tan Xiao and Miao Wentong were like ghosts in the dark, silently approaching the Lien family manor. Tan Xiao had seen countless traps and hidden guards in the dark, but Miao Wentong rarely saw such a situation. Miao Wentong, on the other hand, had rarely seen such a situation. He kept discovering the hidden figures of the Lien family, as well as all kinds of traps and surveillance devices. What a surprise! In a hidden corner in the dark, Miao Wentong looked at the 2.5-meter-high blue brick wall and faintly sighed. "What did you expect?" asked Tan Xiao in a low voice. "I didn't expect the Miao family's defense to be so strong today," said Miao Wentong in a low voice. "I came here more than a decade ago, but I didn't find anything unusual. There's no defense at all. We started from a few kilometers away and came here. We found more than a dozen Lien family guards, more than a dozen traps, and dozens of surveillance devices. I think the others would have been discovered long ago if it weren't for the two of us. The more I think about it, the more I feel that the Lien family is not ordinary." Tan Xiao nodded. "But now, I suddenly regret killing the Lien family's patriarch so easily," Miao Wentong said. "The Lien family's patriarch has always been the core member of the family. He's also the one who knows the most about the Lien family. If we can interrogate him under torture, I'm afraid we can get a lot of useful information. Let's go inside." Tan Xiao took out 2 invisibility talismans and gave one to Miao Wentong. Then his figure soared into the air and directly flew over the electric net on the high wall, quickly entering the Lien family's manor. Miao Wentong's expression slightly changed. He watched Tan Xiao boldly fly and directly jump over. He secretly cursed inside. However, he recalled Tan Xiao's strength and gritted his teeth and jumped over. Inside the manor, a variety of fresh flowers were planted in the dense woods, exuding a floral fragrance amidst the majestic night breeze. "Brother Tang, why did you come in so boldly?" After Miao Wentong caught up with Tan Xiao, he lowered his voice and forced a smile. Tan Xiao let out a faint smile and didn't explain to Miao Wentong. Instead, he directly walked toward the other end of the woods. Even at the edge of the woods, 2 men of the Lien family were smoking there. Yet he boldly walked past them. What? Didn't Tan Xiao say he's coming to investigate? Isn't he afraid of being discovered when he walks over so boldly? Miao Wentong wanted to call out to Tan Xiao, but the next scene almost made his eyes pop out. Tan Xiao walked to the front of the 2 smoking middle-aged men of the Lien family. Then he stopped and waved at Miao Wentong with a smile. Miao Wentong was completely dumbfounded. He never dreamed that he would see such a strange thing. Tan Xiao obviously stopped in front of the 2 men of the Lien family. Yet they acted as if they didn't see him and still smoked and chatted. What the hell? Chapter 894. The strange situation in front of him made Miao Wentong extremely shocked. He suddenly recalled the paper talisman Tang Xiao had just given him outside the courtyard wall. He took it out and observed it for a moment, only to find that this paper talisman was unusual. He could clearly see that there was a faint fluctuation of spiritual power on the talisman. Could it be? Is this an invisibility talisman? Others can't see me if I wear it? Miao Wentong knew that Tan Xiao was good at making all kinds of talismans. His heartbeat sped up immediately. He gritted his teeth and walked toward Tan Xiao and the 2 big men of the Lien family. He walked to Tan Xiao's side, his eyes still staring at the 2 big men of the Lien family who were unaware of him. Cough, cough. One of the big men of the Lien family coughed twice, and suddenly turned his head to look around. He raised his hand to touch the back of his head and said with a confused face, "Why do I feel scared? It's like I'm being stared at by a viper?" The other big man also frowned and exclaimed in surprise, "You also have this feeling? I thought it was just an illusion. I feel like something is staring at me, and I feel a chill on my back." Miao Wentong's expression slightly changed, and he immediately moved his eyes away from the two men. At this moment, his eyes were full of admiration when he looked at Tan Xiao. The invisibility talisman. The legendary invisibility talisman. If he really had an invisibility talisman, it would definitely be a sharp weapon to kill and rob people. He would be able to cut off the enemy's head without anyone noticing. After a while, the two big men of the Lien family looked around and didn't find anything unusual. They then shook their heads and walked away. Standing in the same place, Tan Xiao looked at Miao Wentong and smilingly asked, "How do you feel?" "I felt a bit scared at first, but I was completely relieved after I found out that they really couldn't see us." Miao Wentong smiled. "You're really something, Brother Tang. If my guess is correct, you just gave me an invisibility talisman outside the wall, right?" "I refined some invisibility talismans due to some special reasons." Tan Xiao nodded. "I didn't expect that it would be useful to investigate the situation this time. The Lien family's security is in place. If we didn't have the invisibility charm, it wouldn't have been so easy for us to sneak in." Miao Wentong rubbed his hands with fiery eyes and asked, "Brother Tang, how many invisibility talismans do you have? Can you sell some to me?" Tan Xiao said with a strange expression, "I don't have many, just a few." Miao Wentong said straightforwardly, "Just name your price. I'll take as many as you have." Tan Xiao thought about it and smiled. 3. I'll sell them to you for $3. Cough cough. Miao Wentong let out a hollow laugh and waved his hand, saying, "I don't want to buy it. I'll exchange it with something else." I know you have been looking for the 12 zodiac jade carvings recently. I have some information about one of them. I will find it for you after I confirm it. Really? Tan Xiao was pleasantly surprised. It's true. Miao Wentong nodded and said, but the other party is very difficult to deal with. I'm afraid it will take some time. Alright, let's not talk about this first. Since we have the invisibility charm, let's continue to explore the situation inside. No matter what, we must figure out what's going on with the Lien family tonight. Suppressing the excitement inside, Tan Xiao nodded and glanced toward the depths of the Lien family's manor. He then whispered, "Try not to make any noise. We'll make hand signals to each other if something happens. I have a feeling that this Lien family's manor is not as simple as it looks on the surface." Got it. Miao Wentong nodded repeatedly. Most of the area in front of the Lien family's manor was covered with lush trees, flowers, rockery, and pavilions everywhere. But when Tan Xiao and Miao Wentong went deeper inside and bypassed the fountain square in the center of the manor, they suddenly felt that the style in front of them had changed. The house was as black as ink, completely made of wood and painted black on the outside. In addition, be it the trees or the other buildings, they were all painted black. Even the ground was covered with pitch-black asphalt. Even if one looked carefully, they couldn't see any color other than black. This place is too weird. Miao Wentong came to Tan Xiao's side and cautiously walked toward the north, speaking in a low voice. Tan Xiao squinted his eyes. He could faintly feel a sinister force surging, and his body was slightly trembling at the moment. It was because he had an impulse to immediately rush toward the depths of the Lien family's manor. This impulse was more like a longing, as if there was something in the depths of the Lien family's manor that deeply attracted him. Suddenly, Miao Wentong pulled Tan Xiao's arm and whispered, "Don't you think it's too weird, Brother Tang? Ever since we passed through the fountain square, there has been no other sound in the vicinity, and there's not even a single living person. No, not only living people but even chickens, dogs, insects, ants, and other creatures." "That's true." Tan Xiao nodded. "How about we retreat first, Brother Tang?" Miao Wentong hesitated. "I already have a feeling that there's something terrifying waiting for us ahead. It's a feeling that makes me very uneasy." Tan Xiao shook his head and was about to speak when his complexion slightly changed all of a sudden. The moment he grabbed Miao Wentong's arm, his figure had already disappeared around the corner of a building. He could clearly see a 7- or 8-year-old child holding a rope in his hand in the northern direction of the night. The child was smiling and skipping toward him. Tang Xiao looked up along the rope in the child's hand and found that it was actually a kite flying tens of meters high. Strange, is there something wrong with my hearing? Miao Wentong suddenly muttered to himself in a voice that only the two of them could hear. Tang Xiu shot a deep look at the child who was jumping up and down and seemed to be shouting something. He had the same feeling as Miao Wentong. The child was clearly shouting, but there was no sound at all. He was clearly bouncing, but there was no sound of footsteps. In the surroundings, there was still a dead silence, as if there was something wrong with the hearing system. After a while, Tan Xiu retracted his gaze from the child, shook his head and said, "He's not a human being. He's a spirit body." "What's a spirit body?" asked Miao Wentong with a puzzled expression. "It's a soul state, but it's different," said Tan Xiu. "A spirit body is a kind of creature with a special physique. If it attaches itself to a human body, it can integrate into the human soul and replace it. That child is probably possessed by a spirit body and forcibly seized his body. I didn't expect that the Lien family would have such a thing. It seems that their family has hidden it too deeply." Quickly, the child ran from their line of sight and disappeared at the other end of the dark manor. After Tan Xiu and Miao Wentong came out from the corner, they ignored the spirit body child and slowly walked toward the deeper part of the manor. A few minutes later, Tan Xiu stopped in front of a zebra crossing on a road in the manor. "What happened?" asked Miao Wentong curiously after he looked around and found that there were no traces of people around. "It's an array formation," said Tan Xiu. "The road in front of us is blocked by an array formation. Unless we can break it silently and make a hole to pass through, it'll be very difficult to go deeper without alerting the Lien family." "I don't know anything about arrays, so I can only rely on you," said Miao Wentong with an expectant look. He knew that Tan Xiu was proficient in arrays. When they were adventuring together, he had seen Tan Xiu arrange an array formation with his own eyes. He knew that the array formation arranged by Tan Xiu was very powerful. Tan Xiu released his spiritual sense and circled around the fluctuating energy layer in the air for a few laps. The primal chaos force inside his body was continuously released and integrated into the energy layer in front of him. A few minutes later, Tan Xiu suddenly opened his eyes and said in a low voice, "Interesting. It's really interesting. The Lien family unexpectedly has someone who can arrange the underworld great array. What exactly does the Lien family want to do? Living people living in this underworld great array will be shrouded by the netherworld energy and gradually become the living dead." "What do you mean?" asked Miao Wentong, confused. "There are some things you don't understand." Tan Xiu shook his head and said, "But I can tell you for sure that the Lien family's clansmen living in this array are no longer normal human beings. No wonder I found some dim luster in the bodies of the two ancestors of the Lien family when I killed them. I didn't pay much attention to it at that time, but now that I think about it, they have the netherworld energy in their bodies." Miao Wentong's expression suddenly shifted and he whispered, "Could they be some other type of cultivators? Like the ghost cultivators I read in the ancient records?" "Humph." Tan Xiu snorted coldly. "Ghost cultivators are living people whose souls are baptized by the netherworld energy after they die, and then practice the ghost realm's cultivation technique. If a living person were to practice the ghost realm's cultivation technique, they would become a half-human, half-ghost monster. Even if they can live a very strong life and have a very long lifespan, I'm afraid they won't have any great achievements in the future. What should we do next?" asked Miao Wentong with a half-understanding expression. "Can you break this array formation?" With a confident smile, Tan Xiu grabbed his arm and instantly stepped toward him. His footsteps constantly changed their positions, and their figures quickly appeared inside the underworld great array. The scene in front of them also changed after they entered the underworld great array. That's... Miao Wentong had always thought that he was experienced and knowledgeable. But after seeing the scene inside the underworld great array, his eyes were still as big as copper bells, and he couldn't help but gasp. "Altars?" Tan Xiu raised his brows and asked in a low voice, "Why did the Lien family make so many altars?" "Brother Tang, I've seen such altars in the Miao region before," said Miao Wentong in a low voice. "As far as I know, the number of altars in the entire Miao region is very few, no more than 3. But there are at least dozens of altars here." Tan Xiu glanced at them and said, "There are a total of 49 altars, and there's a blood pool in front of each altar. Damn. This should be human blood. How many people have the Lien family harmed to produce so much blood? Chapter 895. It was hard for Tan Xiao to imagine how many people had to be hunted to fill the 49 blood pools in today's peaceful society. Judging from the size of the blood pools, it would probably take the blood of thousands of people to fill any one of them, and the blood of at least 50,000 people would be needed to fill the 49 blood pools. 50,000 people. 50,000 lives. How did the Lien family do it? Tan Xiao suppressed the killing intent in his heart, and instantly used his spiritual sense to monitor the entire area covered by the underworld Great Array. To his surprise, there was a portal in the 7-meter-high rockery inside, which turned out to be leading underground. Through his spiritual sense observation, Tan Xiao was surprised to find that aside from the 100-square-meter-wide hall, there were also 3 corridors and 49 secret chambers in the underground space. At this moment, except for 2 of these secret chambers, there were people of the Lien family in the other chambers. Moreover, they all looked like elderly people. In addition, inside the 100-square-meter-wide hall, there were also 3 old men sitting cross-legged on the praying mats with wisps of black smoke lingering around them, looking inexplicably strange. I understand now. Tan Xiao took a deep breath. The killing intent in his eyes turned thicker as he gently patted Miao Wentong's shoulder and turned to walk in the direction he came from. With a suspicious look, Miao Wentong followed Tan Xiao and asked, "What do you understand now, Brother Tang?" "I understand what's going on with the Lien family," said Tan Xiao. "I also figured out what the Lien family's biggest reliance is. However, there are still some issues that I haven't figured out yet. As long as I can figure it out, it'll be the time to completely eradicate the Lien family." "What reliance?" asked Miao Wentong quickly. Grabbing Miao Wentong's shoulder, Tan Xiao's feet kept moving and quickly went out of the underworld Great Array. Only then did he release Miao Wentong and said, "The underworld Great Array arranged by the Miao family is a protective array of the underworld. But if it's related to the blood sacrifice, it can be perfectly combined to enhance the strength of ghost cultivators. There is a very large underground space beneath the fake mountain we just saw. That underground space is connected to a fulcrum of the netherworld realm. It can continuously draw in the netherworld energy from the netherworld realm and use it to temper the body, making it even more powerful." Miao Wentong exclaimed, "It can actually connect to the netherworld? Isn't this a little too inconceivable? Also, does the netherworld really exist in this world?" Tan Xiao smiled and said, "Of course not in this world, because this is the mortal world. And in the higher planes of space, there really was the netherworld. Of course, the legendary Hades of the underworld was just a story in legends. However, in the underworld, there are also powerful existences similar to King Yama. They control the 6 paths of reincarnation, and they determine the path of reincarnation based on their judgment." Miao Wentong's lips squirmed a few times before he asked, "In other words, if I die, I will also go to hell?" Tan Xiao shook his head and said, "Others might be able to, but I'm afraid it'll be very difficult for you." Miao Wentong was pleasantly surprised. "Can I go to heaven if I don't go to hell?" Tan Xiao couldn't help laughing and said, "There's no such thing as heaven in this world. That's just a place made up by the gods that the Western people believe in. If you die now, you may enter the netherworld and go through the 6 paths of reincarnation to be reincarnated. But if your strength reaches a certain level in the future, once you die, it's equivalent to your soul being destroyed." Miao Wentong was horrified. "My soul being destroyed? Doesn't that mean?" Tan Xiao raised his hand to interrupt him and smilingly said, "When a person dies, their soul will escape, or they will seize another body and be reborn, or turn into a spirit cultivator. Their ultimate goal is to make themselves stronger and eventually break the shackles above their heads to ascend to the immortal world." Miao Wentong heavily nodded and cautiously said, "It seems that I must be very careful in the future. Else, once my soul is destroyed, I won't even have the chance to reincarnate." Tan Xiao chuckled and said, "In the higher planes such as the immortal world, immortals can still enter the 6 paths of reincarnation to be reincarnated once they die. However, the lower planes and the higher planes do not belong to the same 6 paths of reincarnation, nor are they in the same underworld. In short, there are many situations here. You'll understand them when you can break through and become an immortal in the future. I'll tell you now, but you won't be able to understand many of them. Miao Wentong forced a wry smile and said, how can I have the chance to break through to the immortal realm in my life? Becoming a nascent soul stage expert is already enough to wake up from my dreams with a smile. Tan Xiao patted Miao Wentong's shoulder and walked outside. The two of them had arrived easily, and it was also very easy for them to leave. They left the Lien family's manor house quietly without disturbing anyone. At 2 a.m. in the night, they had returned to the Miao family manor, on the left bank of the artificial lake. Inside a European-style villa, Shuiyu sat quietly on the balcony with a glass of red wine in her hand, watching the swaying woods in front and the dim path in the woods. You're back? Suddenly, a pleasantly surprised look appeared on her beautiful face. She put down the wine glass in her hand and immediately ran to the house. Soon, she met Tan Xiao on the stairs on the first floor. How was it? Asked Shuiyu with a smile. She had been worried about Tan Xiao's safety. Upon seeing him come back safely, her worried heart immediately relaxed and she asked with a smile. Tan Xiao put his hand around her slender waist and walked toward the second floor while saying, I've almost figured it out. The core members of the Lien family have probably fallen into the devil's path. In other words, it can also be said that the core members of the Lien family have fallen into the devil's path. This kind of person was definitely a cruel and merciless existence. We need to eradicate the Lien family as soon as possible. Can we easily eradicate the Lien family? Asked Shuiyu. Tan Xiao pondered for a moment and said, it's hard to say. The Lien family is easy to eradicate, and the evil arts they rely on are also easy to break. But what I'm most worried about now is that there will be a deeper layer behind this. For example, some ghosts in the underworld. The Lien family really has a connection with the underworld? Shuiyu was surprised. Also, you've mentioned the existence of the underworld to me before, but is this place really the underworld? That's right. Tan Xiao nodded. Then what should we do next? Asked Shuiyu. Let's go to Kana's first. If we can open the Immortal Trove in Longquan Bay, we'll try our best to take it out, said Tan Xiao. If we can't open it, we'll come back immediately. 7 days. Regardless of whether we can succeed or not, we'll come back immediately. I'll assign Ao and the others to stay here during these 7 days to inquire about the Lien family's intel. What else do you need to inquire about? Asked Shuiyu, confused. Didn't you personally go there tonight to investigate? What I want to know is whether there are other devils behind the Lien family, said Tan Xiao. Or if their family members have a connection with the underworld. I won't be worried if it's other devils, even if they are very powerful. But I'm afraid that they might have a connection with the ghosts in the underworld. If that's the case, this matter will be very tricky. Shuiyu slowly nodded and said, should we notify the people in Chang City's Green Lake Agricola? After all, the Lien family's patriarch, 2 ancestors, and more than 20 experts of the Lien family died there. If we can't deal with the Liens as soon as possible, I'm afraid they'll be in danger once they send more people there. I'll meet Han Sun tomorrow morning. Tan Xiao nodded. Tell him to go back to Chang City personally. The next day, when the red sun rose in the east, Tan Xiao neatly dressed and walked out of the villa. He found Han Sun sitting cross-legged on the edge of the woods a dozen meters away, and immediately walked over. Boss. Han Sen's injuries had yet to heal, but he was almost healed. Imitating the way Mo Ao and the others addressed Tan Xiao, he got up and respectfully called out. Tan Xiao nodded and said, if my guess is correct, Song Donglai and Ao Wei should have broken through and become qi refining stage cultivators. What do you think? A chilling aura exuded from Han Sen's body, yet his expression was extraordinarily calm as he said, my life belongs to you, boss, so I'll do whatever you want me to do. You want me to become a cultivator, so I'll naturally become one. I won't complain if you want me to maintain my status quo. Go to Chang City. Tan Xiao nodded with satisfaction. Tell Song Donglai and Ao Wei to burn down the Green Lake Agricola and completely erase their traces. Then take them to Jingmen Island immediately and head to the Everlasting Feast Hall's headquarters there. What should I do then? Asked Han Sr. When you arrive at the Everlasting Feast Hall's headquarters in Jingmen Island, someone will naturally take care of you, said Tan Xiu. In addition, when you get there, there will be people who will teach you cultivation techniques and help you embark on the path of cultivation. Remember, you're an outer member of the Everlasting Feast Hall starting from today. I know about the Everlasting Feast Hall, said Han Sr. I've been to the Everlasting Feast Hall's array before. Unfortunately, I was only able to break through 2 layers before I was forced to escape. It's not accurate to say that you don't know about the Everlasting Feast Hall. Tan Xiu let out a faint smile. Go. You'll know what kind of existence it is when you return to the Everlasting Feast Hall. Understood. Hansen nodded and cupped his fists before leaving. A smile outlined on the corner of Tan Xiu's mouth as he watched his back. He found that Hansen was very suitable to be an assassin. He had a very cold temperament and had always been unscrupulous in doing things. As long as he approved it, he would find a way to do it. However, Hansen needed to obey his orders in the future. If he were to return to the immortal world in the future, he could consider taking him with him. He could throw him in the immortal world later, and he would definitely become a god of slaughter in the immortal world. Shortly after, Tan Xiu called Mo Ao and the others and gave them some instructions. He watched them leave and then went to a villa not far away. Brother Tang, you're up so early? Miao Wentong was practicing Taiji Fist in the villa's courtyard. Upon seeing Tan Xiu's arrival, he immediately stopped and greeted him with a smile. Chapter 896. Tan Xiu looked at the spirited and energetic Miao Wentong and said, I'm going to give up eradicating the Lien family for the time being. I'll go to Kana's first and deal with the matters there. I should be back within a week. At that time, we'll think of a way to get rid of the Lien family. Miao Wentong was surprised. You want to go to Kana's? What for? Tan Xiu smiled faintly and said, just a small matter. Miao Wentong saw that Tan Xiu didn't want to talk about it, so he no longer asked. He nodded and said, I'll send some people to continue to inquire about the Lien family's intel and provide you with as much help as possible. I'll leave Ao and the others here. Tan Xiu shook his head and said, I'll leave Ao and the others here to gather intel. The patriarch of the Lien family, Lien Bai, and their 2 old ancestors, along with more than 20 elite experts were killed. They will definitely fly into a rage. At this time, any traces may be discovered by them. It's very dangerous. Miao Wentong forced a wry smile and said, had we not gone to investigate last night, perhaps I would have puffed up my chest and told you that my Miao family is not afraid of the Lien family at all. But now my Miao family really doesn't have the confidence to fight against the Lien family. We'll listen to you. We'll bide our time and wait for your news. Tan Xiu nodded. Even he was afraid of the Lien family, let alone Miao Wentong. If the Lien family found out that the Miao family had ill intentions towards them, they would probably vent their anger on the Miao family. Even the entire Miao family might be slaughtered. Of course, with Miao Wentong's strength, killing a large number of Lien family's experts was not a problem. However, a hungry tiger could not resist a pack of wolves. The chances of Miao Wentong escaping unscathed from the joint attack of 40 to 50 ancestor-level figures of the Lien family were minuscule. In the afternoon, Tan Xiu and Shuiyu appeared at Kana's airport. Because they had contacted Jia Weili in advance, they saw Jia Weili standing not far away with his arms crossed when they walked out of the airport exit. Brother Tang. Jia Weili came up to greet her. Although he was a little stunned when he saw Shuiyu, he still called out enthusiastically. Tan Xiu hugged him and said with a smile, I'll have to trouble big brother Jia Weili again this time. This is my woman Shuiyu. Shuiyu, this is the big brother Jia Weili I told you about. Big brother Jia Weili. Shuiyu nodded with a smile. Jia Weili gave a thumbs up to Tan Xiu and then praised. Brother Tang, you're really blessed to be able to marry such a beautiful goddess like Miss Shui. Let's go, the car is waiting outside. Are you going to my place first? Or? Tan Xiu said. Just send us to the village at Longquan Bay. Our purpose for coming here this time is to open the immortal treasury that we failed to open last time. This time, we have to try again to see what treasures are inside the immortal treasury. No problem, said Jia Weili with a smile. Longquan Bay. After Jia Weili sent Tan Xiao and Shuiyu, he did not stay there for long. He knew that there were some things that needed to be avoided, so he left a Wrangler off-road vehicle for the two of them and left directly. At the village entrance, Shuiyu sized up the village not far away and curiously asked, "Is this the place where you fought before? It looks like there aren't many people living here." Tan Xiao said with a smile, "There are indeed not many residents here, but I found that the people here are very kind and easy to get along with. Let's go. The courtyard we rented last time is a year-round lease, so we still have the right to live here." Shuiyu nodded with a smile and followed Tan Xiao into the village. Not long after, an old man with a harpoon came out from the inside. He looked surprised when he saw Tan Xiao. He hesitated for a moment before he trotted over and said, "Are you Mr. Tang?" "You have a good memory, Grandpa Jia," said Tan Xiao with a smile. "That's right, it's me." Grandpa Jia turned his head and glanced at the village. Then he turned back and hurriedly said, "Only the two of you came this time, Mr. Tang? What about the people you brought last time?" "They didn't follow us." Tan Xiao was confused. "What's wrong? Why do you ask, Grandpa Jia? I advise you not to go to the courtyard you rented last time if you didn't bring them here, Mr. Tang." Grandpa Jia forced a wry smile. "How about this? I still have an empty room in my house. Come home with me and I'll tell my wife to clean it up for you." "What happened, Grandpa Jia?" Tan Xiao realized that the situation was not right and asked. "A group of people came to our village a few months ago. Those people are very arrogant and bad," said Grandpa Jia helplessly. "They have bullied our villagers a lot in the past few months. The courtyard you rented before was also occupied by them. You may cause some trouble if you go there rashly." After saying that, he pointed to Shuiyu and then shook his head helplessly. A cold light flashed in Tan Xiao's eyes. A smile appeared on his face again and said, "Grandpa Jia, we're reasonable people. We rented the courtyard, so the right to live there naturally belongs to us. We don't bully others, but I won't let them off easily if they bully us." "That's right. Do you know the origin of those people?" "Just listen to me." Grandpa Jia waved his hand and said, "Those people are not to be trifled with. They are hunters from other places." "Hunters?" Tan Xiao looked confused. "Grandpa Jia, are you referring to those hunters?" asked Shuiyu. "Are they the ones who illegally hunt and kill rare animals?" Grandpa Jia was surprised and asked, "Does this young lady know these people?" "That's right." There are a lot of rare animals near our Longquan Bay, some of which are quite valuable, so they come here every few years and stay here for a few months. Let's go. You two come home with me. In any case, not many of you came here this time. My room should be enough for you to rest. Tan Xiao thought about it, and felt that there was no need to complicate the issue. Since Grandpa Jia's house could temporarily stay here, it was also fine for them to stay in his place. In any case, they would stay here for a few days, and then enter the depths of Longquan Bay to open the immortal trove. "Old Wu, hurry up. Big Bro will skin you alive if you can't buy the liquor he wants." I know. It's really annoying. What the hell are you rushing me for? Even if I have 3 legs, I still have to run to the place, don't I?" Along with 2 shouts, 2 strong men ran out of the village one after the other. The strong man in the front suddenly stopped when he saw Tan Xiao and Shuiyu. His eyes were fixated on Shuiyu without blinking, and his saliva almost flowed out. "What the fuck are you doing, Old Wu? Why don't you run faster?" The muscular man with a shaved head and a tattoo on his neck scolded and slapped the muscular man in front of him on the head as soon as he came over. The strong man called Old Wu pointed at Shuiyu and stammered, "Ma beauty. She's more beautiful than the big stars on TV." The bald man stared blankly and looked up at Tan Xiao and Shuiyu. His eyes couldn't move away in an instant as he greedily looked at Shuiyu's body from top to bottom. Then he gulped and called out, "Motherfucker. Where did this woman come from? She's really handsome." She's too damn charming. Shuiyu shot a disgusted look at the two men, and immediately reached out to grab Tanxio's arm. A cold light flashed in Tanxio's eyes as he turned to look at Grandpa Jia and asked, "Are they those hunters? Arrogant and despotic? Or are they bad guys?" "Be careful, Mr. Tang," said Grandpa Jia hurriedly. "These people, we can't afford to provoke them. They have guns in their hands." Tanxio sneered and shouted at the two strong men who were staring at Shuiyu. "What the hell are you looking at? I'll dig out your eyeballs if you keep staring. Get the fuck out of here, else I'll deal with you." The bald man's eyes moved away from Shuiyu and fell on Tanxio. He frowned and cursed. "Where the hell did you come from? Watch your mouth or I'll beat you." The strong man, who was called Old Wu, observed Tanxio a few times and then pulled the bald man's arm and whispered a few words. Then the two men gave Tanxio a threatening look as they turned around and ran into the village. Upon seeing this, Grandpa Jia immediately panicked and said, "I advise you to leave quickly, Mr. Tang. Just look at those two bastards' shifty-eyed looks. I'm afraid they must be harboring some dirty tricks in their bellies." "If you continue to stay in this village and they have bad intentions, I'm afraid." "I suddenly changed my mind, Grandpa Jia." Tanxio interrupted him and said, "Those hunters are not good people. Since those hunters weren't good people, I naturally couldn't let them live in the courtyard I rented for nothing. You go back first, I'll go see them." Don't, Grandpa Jia hurriedly said. "Please don't be impulsive, Mr. Tang. As far as I know, those people not only hunt and kill rare animals, but they also dare to kill people. I heard that they killed people 2 years ago, and the people they killed were local policemen." "They killed policemen, but no one arrested them?" Tanxio was confused. "Who dares to arrest them?" Grandpa Jia forced a wry smile. "This place is vast and sparsely populated, so it's a good place to hide people everywhere. Besides, these guys come and go without a trace. It's too easy for them to evade the police's pursuit. Since they dare to kill people, then I'll enforce justice on behalf of the heavens today." Tanxio sneered. "Grandpa Jia, you go back first. I'll treat you to a drink tonight." "I say, Mr. Tang, can you not force yourself?" Grandpa Jia hurriedly said. "There are 7 or 8 of them, and none of them are good people. If you go there like this, it's like throwing a meat bun at a dog. Also, if this young lady follows you, Tanxio waved his hand and smilingly said, "I appreciate your kindness, Grandpa Jia." Having said that, then, he held Shuiyu's hand and strode toward the rented courtyard. If it weren't for those two guys just now, he wouldn't have gone to find trouble with those people. But now it was obvious that he couldn't let it go. Even if he didn't find trouble with them, they would probably find trouble with him. Chapter 897. Holding Shuiyu's hand, Tanxio strode confidently toward the village. The courtyard they rented was located in the northernmost part of the village, a relatively remote location. Despite Grandpa Jia calling out to him many times in worry, Tanxio didn't look back nor did he stop his pace. What should I do? Shuiyu didn't sympathize with those hunters. Those two shifty-eyed guys just now made her very annoyed. However, she didn't want to see Tanxio kill more people, even if those people deserved it. The heaven's net has a long and wide range, but it never escapes, said Tanxio. Those hunters are not good people, so I'll make them taste the consequences. I won't kill them, but I can't let them get away with it anymore. The people in this village are good people, so I'll give them a chance to make meritorious deeds. That's for the best, said Shuiyu with a chuckle. In the dilapidated courtyard, a faint smell of gunpowder floated in the air, while muffled coughs came from the dilapidated house. Two big men with ugly faces and lazy expressions were leaning on both sides of the door drowsily. In the corner of the courtyard, a hunchbacked middle-aged man was dexterously putting the carcasses of several rare animals into a sack, and then threw them into the temporarily built wooden shed. Second brother, kill the wild boar we hunted yesterday. We'll stew it tonight, said the hunchbacked middle-aged man as he walked to the door and kicked the drowsy big man on the left. All right. The big man on the left raised his head and grunted before closing his eyes again. Big brother. Brothers. The bald man and old five rushed into the courtyard and shouted at the top of their lungs. The hunchbacked middle-aged man turned his head and found that the two men were empty-handed. He immediately shouted angrily, "What the hell are you howling for? Where's the wine I told you to buy for this, father?" "We didn't have time to buy the wine, big brother," said old fifth hurriedly. "But we saw a great beauty. She's really beautiful. She's even more beautiful than those female stars we saw on TV. I dare swear to God that you won't be able to take your eyes off her even if you saw her." The bald man also nodded and said, "That's right. I can vouch for what old fifth said. That woman, TSK, whether it was her figure, her appearance, or her temperament, she was definitely one in a million. Big brother, I've seen many women, but I've never seen such a beautiful one." A strange look flashed in the eyes of the hunchbacked middle-aged man. If only one of them had said it, he might have been dismissive. However, both of his brothers had said so. Perhaps the woman was really good-looking. However, what does it have to do with me? A chilling light flashed in the hunchbacked middle-aged man's eyes as he shouted in a deep voice, "We brothers gathered here to seek wealth. If you want to play with women, then wait until we make money and go our separate ways. You can do whatever you want. But now, all of you better behave yourselves. Don't cause unnecessary trouble." The bald man shouted, "Big brother, Old fifth raised his hand to interrupt him and quickly said, "Big brother, we don't want to complicate matters. That woman is simply like a fairy. When you see her, you will definitely be envious." In addition, there was a man with the woman. He was a young man in his 20s. He was very arrogant and even threatened us. BM. The courtyard's door was kicked open and Tang Xiu walked inside while holding Shueyu's hand. After glancing around, he sneered and said, "That's right. I'm indeed very arrogant and I did threaten you. What? Do you want to retaliate against me?" Old Fifth was dumbfounded. He never dreamed that this young man would dare to come looking for them. Is this brat retarded? Doesn't he know that a sheep has entered the tiger's den? The hunchbacked middle-aged man vigilantly looked at Tan Xiao. When his eyes fell on Shueyu, he immediately looked stunned. It took him a few seconds to sober up from the shock and coldly snorted. "Who are you, mister? Daring to come knocking on our door, huh? You're quite courageous." "You're not qualified to know who I am," said Tan Xiao indifferently. "As for how courageous I am, it's not up to you to judge. Now you either hold your heads and squat by the wall, or I'll knock all of you out." The two sleepy big men beside the door stood up at the same time. The burly big man on the left twisted his neck and clenched his fist, producing a dull crackling sound that was a bit more intimidating. He looked at Tang Xiu with a murderous look and said, "Brat, this grandpa is going to kill you today, and then I'm going to kill your woman." Slap. Tan Xiu's figure flashed and appeared in front of the burly man. Along with a loud slap, the burly man flew upside down from the door like a kite with a broken string, and then heavily fell on the ice-cold ground. An expert? The hunchbacked middle-aged man's pupils shrunk and killing intent loomed in his eyes. He was perfectly aware of his second brother's strength. Even a very powerful martial artist was not necessarily his match. He himself was only half a step away from the martial arts grandmaster realm, yet he couldn't clearly see the opponent's attack due to such a small gap. "You're very strong." The hunchbacked middle-aged man took out a pistol from his waist and quickly unlocked the safety. He then aimed the muzzle at Tan Xiu and said, "But I want to know which one is faster, you or the bullet." Several other big men also quickly rushed into the room. In just a few seconds, they took out guns and air guns and aimed at Tan Xiu. Tan Xiu turned to look at Shueyu and chuckled. "Are you afraid?" Shueyu was fearless and a bit of pity could be seen in her eyes. She shook her head and said, "The ignorant are fearless. I feel sorry for them now. Can you feel it? The murderous aura coming from them is very strong. Their hands should be stained with people's lives, and I'm afraid it's not just one or two." "That's right." Tan Xiu nodded and said, "Especially this hunchback. He has taken at least 10 lives, and many of them should have been tortured to death by him. I'm a bit surprised how they survived until now." "Go easy on them later," said Shueyu. Tan Xiu let out a faint smile and looked at the angry faces of the crowd. Then, his eyes fell on the hunchbacked middle-aged man. Looking at his vigilant expression, he lightly smiled and said, "Am I right?" The hunchbacked middle-aged man's heart kept sinking. Even though he and his brother were pointing their guns at Tan Xiu, he still felt that this young man was too strange. After hesitating for a moment, he asked again in a deep voice, "Who exactly are you, mister?" Tan Xiu waved and said, "If you can kill me, you can naturally look through my ID card and know my information. But if you can't kill me, then you don't need to know who I am." "That's right, didn't you just ask me which one is faster, your bullet or mine? Try it, I'll stand here and not move." "You're courting death." The big man, who was just slapped by Tan Xiu, grinned hideously. He aimed the cold muzzle at Tan Xiu's head and pulled the trigger without hesitation. Bang! The grin on the big man's face froze after the gunshot. How is this possible? Damn. Is he a human or a ghost? He caught the bullet with his hand? Motherfucker, am I crazy, or is this world crazy? That's too scary. The hunchbacked middle-aged man's wrist trembled a few times and his finger that was pulling the trigger instantly retracted. A horrified look appeared on his face as he retreated 2 steps back and hurriedly said, "Little brother, it was our fault just now. I'm an old hunchback from the western region, and all my friends in the underworld know me. There's actually no enmity between us. It's just that we didn't get along well with each other, and had some friction. Let's just forget about today's matter, and leave this place immediately. How about it?" Tan Xiu pinched the bullet and asked with a faint smile, "If I didn't catch this bullet just now, do you think this matter can be easily forgotten?" The hunchbacked middle-aged man was silent for a moment and slowly asked, "What do you want, mister?" Tan Xiu threw away the bullet and gently spread his arms. He then smilingly said, "Don't worry. I may have killed a lot of people, but I don't want to go on a killing spree today. You will die, but it will be the police bullets that will kill you." In an instant, 2 strands of primal chaos force were released from Tan Xiu's hands. Like invisible ribbons, they instantly entangled all the guns in the hands of the 7 men, and took them away in an instant. Tan Xiu's figure was as fast as lightning and constantly appeared in front of the 7 men. Along with the fists hitting their flesh, the 7 men were sent flying backward. Cough cough, aya. The 7 men heavily fell to the ground amid screams. With his hands clasped behind his back, Tan Xiu walked to the hunchbacked middle-aged man, and directly stepped on his head. He then lightly smiled and said, "Western hunchback? That's fucking interesting. You think you can make a name for yourself in the underworld with just this little bit of strength? Is it because there's no one left in the West?" The hunchbacked middle-aged man lay on the ground and let Tan Xiu step on his head, not daring to struggle at all. He had also encountered some ruthless people before, and even offended a martial arts grandmaster. But he still managed to escape in the end. How could he be trampled under someone's foot like this? A freak. This young man was definitely a freak. Otherwise, how could a normal person have such terrifying strength? Tan Xiu shook his head and kicked him unconscious. Then he kicked several others unconscious. Finally, he came to the side of the big man called Old Fifth, squatted down, patted his cheek, and said with a faint smile, "Don't play dead. I'm quite ruthless to them, but I held back on you. Don't kill me." Old Fifth struggled to sit up from the ground and begged for mercy with a face full of fear. Tan Xiu said with a faint smile, "I won't kill you if you can answer a question of mine. I won't even cripple you." "Please ask." Old Fifth said eagerly. "I want to know what you said to your companions in the village before," asked Tan Xiu. "Then you gave up on buying the wine and came back directly? Don't lie, or the bullet in the gun will shoot into your head." Old Fifth's face instantly turned pale and he stammered, It's to find our other brothers and find a way to kill you. Then our brothers will enjoy your BM. Tang Xiu knocked him out with a punch and directly broke his legs. Then he took out his mobile and dialed 110 to call the police. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference. as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.